Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Michigan Scholastic State Championships. We are so excited to bring you these wonderful pictures and some commentary for what has turned into a little bit of a truncated race day today. We had some weather this morning, a lot of lightning strikes, so the decision was made from organization to make all of the events today basically semifinals that we are going to measure based on the times, and then medals will be allocated based on that. So we should have a pretty exciting afternoon for you. We should be going until about 4:45 in the afternoon. And right now we are coming to you live with the women's varsity quad. This is the second semi, so the first semi just came down. And the seeding for the semis was based off of the performances at last weekend's Midwest Championships. So right now we're seeing Grand Haven in lane 1 to the far side, the right of your screen. Northville in 2 looks like they are in the lead, having a great race. Next to them in lane 3 is Northview, followed by Grosse-Ile in lane 4 and Forest Hills in lane 5. But right now we are riding along with that quick, speedy Northville crew. Look at them go. Really nice blade work from these ladies. They are putting down some speed here. You can see a lot of aggressive body angle. They are doing a great job all keeping the body swinging together. Very nice composed row from Northville in lane 2 right now, leading the pack by, it looked to be at least 5, maybe 6 lengths of open water. Clearly this Northville crew has something to prove here. A lot of crews that might have potentially made it into the grand final today got seated a little bit lower due to just whatever happened last weekend at Midwest. So that's how we got our seating for the semis. So depending on whether crews had a good performance last weekend and if they were able to bring it today. And I'm about to be joined by our incomparable co-announcer Russ. Russ was on the mic almost the entirety of last Sunday for Midwest Champs. It was pretty impressive. So we're real glad to have him again. My name's Chasen. I'm happy to be announcing and commentating for you today as we witness the tail end of the second semi for the women's varsity quad. How you doing today, Russ?
Pretty good, Chasen. Happy to be back here, and certainly for everyone here at the course who's been pivoting all morning. It's great to be able to see racing coming down, even if it's not quite the format originally planned, as we watch the women's varsity quad semi 2 come down.
Yeah, and some really crisp rowing. This crew has only gotten more speedy as I think they've found their flow over the course of the course right now. It looks like they are approaching the beach, so they are getting ready to do the damage for their sprint. Saw that bow seat just look over her shoulder, getting ready to wind it up. You see she's calling to her crew right now, locking them in, getting the focus going. Northville having a really great row today. So we've had some interesting weather. As I mentioned earlier, there were a few lightning strikes. It was right after the coaches and coxswains meeting. It just came down pretty heavy with some torrential downpours and lightning. And again, the decision was made just to make today all about the semis and just take the times from that to award medals. So we have already seen some medals go out the door today just based on the semi times. And we are going to be comparing the first and second semis against each other all day, just to see. There might be some underdogs in the second semi of a race, but presently all of the fastest crews from Midwest were seeded into their first semifinal.
Yeah, so one of the challenges that we'll see as we compare times from semi 1 to semi 2 is the simple fact that in some of these races you have some disparity between where crews are coming down and they're not able to line up sight on scene, so it's a fair bit of racing the clock, and just if you're that second place crew, continue to press down the course, because relative to where you are on the first semi, you could be of a medalist speed, just not know it because you're in the faster semi.
Yeah, and worth noting, we had the same thing happen in the previous event, which was the men's freshman coxed 4, and it looked like the second semi had a silver place finisher that won their second semi, but when compared to the times against the first semi, they managed to beat most of the field and came in second. That was the Orchard Lake St. Mary's crew from the freshman men's 4 race. And right now we're just finishing up the women's varsity quad second semifinal. A lot of grit and determination out there, finishing out these races strong.
And a great overhead drone shot here as the final crews come through the line.
And it looked like the time to beat from the first semifinal of this event. This is the women's varsity quad semifinal 1 was from Skyline with a time of 5:40.95. So we'll see if the fast-moving Northville crew was able to best that. Just waiting on those official times now. And some fun post-race smiles, always good to see. There's such jubilation when you finish a race, no matter what position you finish in. You know that you tried your hardest, and that's the name of the game.
Yeah, the crew here at Mixer Media brings some great drone footage from Kensington Metro Park here. Right now we're looking at the women's 2V/junior quad heat 1. Lane 1, we've got Skyline. Lane 2, Northville. Lane 3, Forest Hills Eastern. Lane 4, Forest Hills Central. Lane 5, Traverse City Central. Lane 6, Orchard Lake St. Mary. And Lane 7, EGR.
And right out of the gate here, it looks like Skyline in lane 1 has already established a tiny bit of an open water lead here against the rest of the pack. But boy, oh boy, the minor medals are still up for grabs. It looks like it could be anybody's to win for the silver or bronze. And it looks like we will have another... Oh no, it looks like this is the...
Yeah, this will end up being the only heat. Okay. So this is... all these ladies are racing head-to-head. To vie out for medals here as we get this side shot coming through about 600. Skyline is pushed out to about a 2-length open water lead here on Northville in lane 2. And then a tight pack across the rest of lanes 3 through 7 as we work to push to the island in the 750 mark.
And a quick update from the prior race. Congratulations to that Northville crew. That fast, speedy Northville crew from the semifinal, the second semifinal, managed to win with a time of 5:32 over, it looks like Skyline in the first semifinal had a time of 5:40, so about 8 seconds faster from Northville. Congratulations, Northville, on their women's varsity quad win. And wow, we're seeing some real speed out of Skyline right here in this the junior quad event.
Yeah, they've got a lot of really good press and swing here, rowing relaxed. Thankfully, conditions are a little bit more improved than a lot of these crews got to see last weekend at Midwest's. And so as these crews look to take the next step in their racing, a great opportunity to go down the course and throw down.
And a little bit of difficulty, you guys can probably see as you follow along at home, there is a very sheltered area as the boats start their races, but as they come clear of those islands, the wind does pick up, and we're starting to see a little bit of shaky steering. These quads do have or do not have the benefit of a coxswain, so the rower that is typically in the bow seat is going to be making the calls and going to be steering. And it looks like they've all figured it out now, but watch out for when those crews clear those islands, because their shelter from the wind basically goes away almost instantaneously. And we're right now riding with, it looks like a little bit of a cross tailwind situation. Shouldn't be too problematic. These crews have rode and raced on this course all year. This should be about the 4th or 5th time, Russ, that they've...
Yeah, a lot of these crews have had a chance to race here 5 weeks in a row at this point.
Yeah.
And certainly handling the conditions well here. We've got Skyline sitting out in front. Up on Northville in second, and Traverse City Central is looking to edge into that Northville crew. Orchard Lake St. Mary just on their stern. And then side by side here, EGR over to Forest Hills. I believe that's Eastern in Central in lane 4.
Yeah. It does look like, it looked like Traverse City was starting to make a move over there, but I don't think that they had enough in the tank to really make a dent in Northville. Northville and Skyline just kind of in a race unto themselves, but especially Skyline, whom I think has about a 5 or 6 boat length lead right now, open water. Really, really crisp sculling from Skyline. You can see the blades are all matching up. They're rolling up together. Angles on those oar shafts are almost perfectly aligned, and they are just really sending it. The Skyline crew has a pretty high rate of striking right now. I would venture to call that upwards of like 34, 36, which is pretty fast.
Yeah, absolutely. They're using this as an opportunity to throw down a good fast race here and hopefully take a good next step. with the potential of maybe looking, I'm not sure if that crew's headed to Scholastics in 2 weeks, but certainly taking a good step there as they come across the line.
Yeah, gosh, I hope so. I'll be joining you next week at Scholastic Rowing Nationals down in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. So I look forward to continuing these stories from our stalwart Michigan crews. Oh my goodness, look at that. Looks like Northville might have gotten overtaken at the last second. That was a tough one to tell. We'll see what the official times are, but that ended up being a much tighter race for the second medal position than we were anticipating. Always exciting. And just really exceptional stuff from our athletes, maintaining their resiliency. You know, when you have a delay like they had this morning, you're kind of left wondering like, oh man, what's going on? A lot of questions, a lot of downtime. And so for these crews to maintain their composure and come out and do the thing after a delay is pretty awesome. And it shows a strong mental will, but also the coaches have prepped them and trained them on how to pretty much stay ready for anything on race day.
Yeah, absolutely, and lots of parents here supporting their kids and their teams, but a lot of people standing around this morning trying to make the most of a hurry-up-and-wait situation, which, as an outdoor sport, you learn a lot of that in rowing.
Yeah.
But a lot of resiliency and crews being able to go out and make the most of everything, keeping everyone safe, and at the same time getting some good racing in. So as we head up to the start here, we're going to be following the women's novice coxed quad, the first heat. It is the only heat of this event. It's a 6-lane race. Lane 1 will be Northville, Lane 2 Skyline, Lane 3 Forest Hill Central, Lane 4 Orchard Lake St. Mary, Lane 5 Trenton, and Lane 6 Saline. So again, this is a 6-boat race. It is the only heat of this event. So we won't be comparing times between events as they get locked on here. Get a beautiful shot here of just how sheltered that start area is up in the cove.
Yeah, this is such a beautiful race course and really just exciting to see. As I grew up in this area, we did not have this 20 years ago when I was racing. So it's super exciting to see. A lot of investment, a lot of care went into this course. We are very lucky, and I feel like this is just a gem here in the Midwest for us to make use of.
Yeah, and certainly as everyone was standing around coming up with Plan B this morning, lots of volunteers here who many of whom have been here multiple weeks in a row, looking to just try to keep everything safe and fair and put on a great product. Certainly the timing crews, the start crews, the stake boat holders, whether you consider it a skilled task or an unskilled task, a lot of people that give a lot of time up here to make this all happen. And it's great to see that culture and that community continues to grow and build, so we can have events like this. So as the crew in Lane 6 gets themselves turned around and locked onto that stake boat, this event does have the benefit of having coxswains, so there's an extra brain in the boat to help make sure that the crews are headed down straight and narrow.
Yeah, not the easiest thing to do as a novice crew. Russ and I were actually talking a little bit before this about just what it takes, the precision to get your crew up to that stake boat where you see they've got some help. There are people on those little platforms there that hold the stern of the boat while your bow is pointed down towards the finish line. But sometimes backing and making those fine-tuned adjustments can be really tricky as a novice. Everything from the terminology of what to do, as well as just being able to stay focused and really making tiny adjustments that isn't going to throw off your coxswain's point. Luckily, these rowers do all have coxswains, and so there's an added element of safety. They're able to get a point easier, and with these coxswains being so close to the water, it's pretty fun. I've been able to sit in those tiny little coxswain compartments once or twice, and it is a blast. A really cool way to experience a race. It's almost like you're a drag racer right up next to the road. And it looks like everybody's made contact with their starting stake boat right now. Again, this is a 6-boat race. This is the only so this is basically a final. It says Heat 1, but that was the prearranged order prior to this morning's thunderstorms. But we have a final on our hands right here for the women's coxed quad, women's novice coxed quad, excuse me. And it's a beautiful, lush day in Michigan. All those plants, all that grass. Very happy from the rain we got this morning. Smells nice and verdant out there. I learned a new word today. That smell that you get from rain is called petrichor. So we're flush with it now as these boats take off.
There's certainly some energy being put down here as these crews take their opening strokes, looking to establish their rhythm and just relax out. Been sitting around for a long time today waiting to come down the course.
Oh, tiny little crab that I think got caught and is still dragging him down. And I think that's the Trenton boat in lane 5. They're trying to figure out how to get that crabbed oar out of the water. And sometimes it requires everybody to stop rowing so that that person that has the crabbed oar, yep, Trenton just stopped so that they could dislodge that oar. And that can sometimes take some time, take some effort. But bouncing back is really the hallmark of a quality crew. And it looks like Trenton had it in hand before we lost sight of them. So they'll be joining us again. But right now in the lead, it looks like we've got, is that Skyline over there in lane 2, Russ?
Yeah, it looks like Skyline about astern over Northville in lane 1. And then we've got dead even Orchard Lake St. Mary in Forest Hills Central. And then out to lane 6, Celine on their tail, as these crews push through that opening 250 and just look to lengthen out and get some good push.
Skyline showing some real pedigree in the quads today. I've been very impressed with the coaching the Skyline has clearly put into the fundamentals, and their sculling prowess, I think, is some of the best in the region right now.
Yeah, certainly a program that puts a lot of emphasis on small boats and the ability to move a boat.
Yeah.
As we every program sort of finds the best way to develop their athletes and just establish that culture of the process over the goal. Can be a lot of challenge, but some clean rowing there. Rest of the field working to just, again, establish that base push. Northville swinging well and pressing in lane 1. Forest Hill Central, Orchard Lake St. Mary just going stroke for stroke here in 3 and 4. And that Trenton crew looks like they're back on the straight and narrow here as they make their way down the course.
Yeah, Skyline giving them the business, though. That's a very, very crisp-looking novice crew. Very impressive from that Skyline novice crew. And for those of you unaware, novice rowers are within their first year of touching a boat, and so they've had no prior experience before the fall. So arguably they all learned to row in August or September of 2025. And to see such a coordinated and synchronized effort from this Skyline crew, for novice rowing, it's pretty awesome. Northville not out of it yet, though, in lane 1. It seems like Northville is just really gritty and hanging on for dear life. They are definitely punchy with those strokes. You can tell they're putting maximum effort down into the blades.
Yeah, and if there's certainly anything we learned last weekend at Midwest Scholastics, this middle portion of the race as they go from the 500 to the 1,000 is where a lot of these crews were able to either establish themselves and push out, or through some gritty rowing keep their bow ball into the race and use that opportunity to spring forward in that third 500 towards a medal or a higher place finish. So that Northville crew looks to be rowing with some good grit there as they hang on to the stern of Skyline. Skyline working to absorb a little bit of a move there by Northville as we come through the 750. Forest Hill Central has pushed up just a little bit on Orchard Lake St. Mary, who still has contact, but Forest Hill is definitely looking to use this second 500 to press away from Orchard Lake just a little bit, see if they can put themselves in a bronze medal position.
And let's not forget about Trenton and Celine bringing up the rear of the pack. And it looks like Northville is getting a little bit more synchronous. I'm noticing that their blade work is improving. It looks like they're finding their flow over there to the right of your screen in lane 1. I think Northville might be finding a little bit of extra speed. We'll see if it's enough. Skyline definitely still looking great. Nice and flowy out of the Skyline crew. And some really good stuff back there out of Forest Hill Central too. It looks like a coordinated row out of Forest Hill Central, still leading Orchard Lake St. Mary's in 4th. But right now we are seeing Skyline with just the tiniest bit of open water lead over Northville. Northville came back, maybe had a deck into the Skyline crew, but I think Skyline just said, nope, not today. And they're starting to probably gear up for their approach to the beach right now.
Yeah, one of the great things about this event for all the athletes is the simple fact that they're in their first year of high school rowing, whether they are a freshman or sophomore, junior, rowing in that novice event. That opportunity of these athletes are sort of the future of these programs, and well, they may be where they are now, a little bit more hard work, a little bit more effort, and they can continue to excel and help their program grow, get a little faster. So great to see an opportunity for these athletes to come down the course and test themselves, take that next step. But we get this great shot here of Skyline working as they come into the red buoys to hold off that Northville crew that has slowly been reeling them in here, seeing if Skyline can stay relaxed and continue to push away in this 250, or will Northville have enough river left to reel them in?
Oh, they're inching. Northville's inching up on Skyline every stroke. It looks like Northville is just trying to get every meter that they can out of their sprint. This is going to be fun. I think Northville is continuing to walk on Skyline. We'll see if Skyline has even started their sprint yet. This might be a case where Northville decided to take it up early, challenge Skyline, and hopefully rattle Skyline's cage a little bit. Sometimes, to borrow a metaphor from tennis, you can kind of force your opponent's hand and maybe get an unforced error, in which case, maybe they'll catch a crab, maybe they'll just get a little bit rattled. But it looks like Skyline is operating at too high a level today, and that Northville charge has gone checked pretty much. Even though there is overlap now, it looks like Skyline is going to remain victorious. Nice job to that Skyline crew, but man, hats off to that Northville crew for coming back. They had about I think at one point probably half a boat length of open water, and we see some thumbs up here from the Skyline girls over to the Northville crew, and that is such great sportsmanship that we I think as rowers really pride ourselves on. Just being excellent competitors means being magnanimous in victory and humble in defeat.
And as we look at the finish line here with the closing crews coming through the line, we'll take a quick look at the points trophies here. The overall points right now, we've got Orchard Lake St. Mary in the lead with 99.6 points, Skyline in second with 74.8, Northville with 64.4, Pioneer with 38.2, and Huron at 35 points. On the women's sweep side, we'll go top three here. Orchard Lake St. Mary, 56.4. Northville, 27.6. Huron, 26.4. Men's sweep, Orchard Lake St. Mary, 32 points. Pioneer, 20. Forest Hills Northern, 12.8. Women's sculling, we've got Skyline in the lead with 32 points, with Northville right behind them at 26, and Traverse City Central at 12.8. And then finally for the men's sculling trophy, we've got Skyline in the lead with 16.8, just narrowly over EGR, who's tied with Green Hills at 15 apiece.
Thanks, Russ. Great to know where the trophies stand at so far. Right now, we are riding along with you in the men's varsity single event. This is the gladiator event of our sport. In lane 1, we've got Green Hills on the far side of your picture. In lane 2, Northville looks like they are in second right now. In lane 3, Celine. Lane 4, FGR is... I'm blanking on my acronyms. Apologies to FGR. We're going to look that up real quick. In lane 5, this is the sole rower from Bloomfield Hills. That's a one-man team over there in lane 5 of Bloomfield Hills. Lane 6 is Huron, and closest to you is Northview in lane 7. Right now, it looks like Green Hills is winning the pack right now. And lane 4 is Father Gabriel Richard. Apologies to the Gabriel Richard crew. We did not know our acronyms in the heat of the moment there.
Yeah, but some great press here as we're pushing into that last 500. That Green Hill Sculler established out a little bit here over the Northville Sculler, and then some real dogfighting happening here across the middle of the field.
Yeah, anything could happen for this bronze medal right now, Russ. I think it's going to turn out to be a really good race for third. But wow, Green Hills is really impressing me right now. They, I think, have the lowest strokes per minute of any crew on the field presently, but still widening that gap between them and Northville. Very impressive from Green Hills.
Great job there of putting themselves in a commanding position and just extending out and relaxing.
And it looks like presently the rower from Bloomfield might have about half a boat lead. And I mentioned this last week, rowing by yourself and being the only person on your team, but especially, bringing the single day in, day out to bear is such a feat of mental discipline. Okay, great. But Green Hill's still in a commanding lead. Northville still in second, and I think that bronze medal position might be shaking up again.
Yeah, it's a long race, and it's a real slugfest. The Huron Sculler had come out real hard and was just doing everything he could to press out and try to put the pressure on the other crews. And it looks like he's paying a little bit for it here, but he's hanging tough. The Northview Sculler is pushed up on him just a little bit, along with the Bloomfield Hills and the Father Gabriel Richard Sculler in the middle of the course. Celine there in lane 3, sort of drawing level with the Huron Sculler in lane 6 as the two of them look to see if they can get back into it here.
And a great shot from our drone as we approach the beach. The energy on the beach has been growing. There was a lot of questions about how racing would proceed today. We're real excited that the parents and the fans could stick around and support their crews here. We see the Jumbotron up on the top of the screen there. They're watching with captivation the first half of the race and then turning their eyes towards the water as it looks like this Green Hills Sculler is coming in first. Nice job to Green Hills. Northville following shortly thereafter. A little bit close to one side of his lane, but you should be fine. Watch out on that buoy there. And wow, this bronze medal race really heated up. Oh gosh, that might have been a photo finish. We'll have to see where that landed.
And as we look up to the next race, as the drone cycle here, next race will be the men's varsity single, the second heat. So we'll have an opportunity to see and compare times here from the race we just saw come down to heat number 2. We'll have in lane 1 Cranbrook, lane 2 Skyline, lane 3 Orchard Lake St. Mary, lane 4 Forest Hills Eastern, lane 5 Traverse City West, lane 6 Lowell. So as we pick up racing here, coming through the 750, getting a shakeout of who's who and where they are, we've got the Forest Hills Eastern Sculler sitting up by about a length lead over the Cranbrook Sculler in lane 1, then Skyline in 2, Orchard Lake St. Mary in lane 3 sitting in the 4th position. Then to Traverse City West in lane 5, and the Lowell Sculler in lane 6. But again, a nice relaxed shot here of just seeing these scullers coming down the course. They've got to lay down a time that can be comparable and put them in competition with Heat 1. But of course, they don't know how those races unfolded. So there's a little bit of a just got to throw it against the wall and see what sticks here.
Yeah, really just going to the bottom of the well and pushing yourself as much as possible, which is really what single scullers do all day, every day. There's nobody else in the boat with you, nobody else to help with steering, with motivation. You are a one-man army in the single scull. And we're seeing some great sculling right here out of the second heat. Little bit of an adjustment from a few of the rowers that I saw as they exited the clear and sheltered water. These smaller boats are going to have a little bit more susceptibility to the conditions, so when they hit the wind, they're going to feel it more than in a bigger boat. These boats are lighter and just going to have a little bit of a tougher time navigating through the wind. But gosh, this looks like a pretty stroke for stroke race right now. It looks like Cranbrook is in the lead, but only by, I'd say, half a deck right now.
Yeah, both the Cranbrook Sculler and the Forest Hills Eastern Sculler are taking a look over at each other here as they slog it out, trying to make it to those red buoys. Just a game of inches here. Forest Hills Sculler looking like he's just trying to reel him in just a little bit over in lane 1, but a lot of press and pry here, just trying to leverage himself through as he works to draw even coming into the red buoys.
Oh, and it looks like maybe Forest Hills just got a little bit of exhaustion going on. You can see the limbs got a little bit heavy there. It's about the time in the race where the lactic acid really starts to flow. And, you got to rely on your training, but you also just have to keep breathing, have to just keep cycling through and just hoping you can sort of see through the other side of whatever hump you're experiencing. Looks like Forest Hills is finding something again, starting to charge up for that last sprint to the finish. But Cranbrook seems to be in clear control of this race. Looks like we've got the tiniest bit of contact, maybe a bit of open water for Cranbrook.
Yeah, just looking long, relaxed, in command, comfortable.
Yeah.
Certainly not feeling the best here as he's laid down 1,400 meters of hard rowing in the single, but handled the conditions well and pressing out.
Yeah.
Still waiting on those times from the first heat to see how these two are going to compare and where he'll stack up. But certainly a good commanding push here.
Totally. And let's not count out Skyline. Skyline has been actually reeling in that Forest Hills rower the back half of this race. A little bit too late, a little bit behind, but pretty darn close. So congratulations to look like Cranbrook and then Forest Hills and then Skyline in this race. How did those times match up to the first heat there, Russ?
We are still waiting for the update here on
Gotcha.
Crew Timer as I refresh feverishly. But as we pull those up, we'll make sure to update things.
Awesome. I'm going to turn over the mic to Chris Zarnecki of Orchard Lake St. Mary's, who's going to call a couple races for you here.
Yeah, so as we get those results in here from Heat 1 of the men's varsity single, Green Hill's throwing down a 543.4, Northville a 548.1, and then Bloomfield Hills at a 556.2. So we'll have to wait and see here as we get the times from Heat 2 as to how that stacks up and where the medals then lie. So a little bit of jockeying here in the announcer's booth. I'm joined now by Chris Zarnecki from Orchard Lake St. Mary as we fly back up to the start for the men's varsity single, heat number 3. And do give us a little bit of grace here as we're trying to follow the schedule, follow the times, and compare times across here. But so this is the third heat. Crews are off. We've got lane 1 Traverse City Central, lane 2 Spring Lake, lane 3 Pioneer, lane 4 EGR, and lane 5 Crestwood.
I tell you what, Russ, I bet everybody who's out in a single today is just thanking God Almighty that we are not seeing the conditions that we've seen at Kensington all spring long. This is far better, far fairer racing conditions than we've seen this spring. I think anybody who's lived in Michigan long enough knows that spring is a fickle mistress.
Yeah, certainly wait 5 minutes and see, and we've been pretty fortunate today to see almost all the seasons. They predict things are going to warm up a little bit more as we go throughout the day, but these athletes are doing a great job of handling conditions and making the most of the opportunity they're given here.
Got a real nice race developing here between TC Central and Pioneer.
Yeah, good press out. Both scullers doing a good job of just staying long, pressing out. As we looked at times from the first and second heat, again, sort of that medalist speed here. If you want to nip a bronze, we're looking at about a 5:56. We do have the rough running clock on our time chart here, but so just keeping an eye on that. Again, that was the 5:56 out of the first heat. The Bloomfield Hill sculler, silver medal right now, a 5:48 out of the Northville sculler, and the gold right now is the Green Hill sculler, 5:43 from that first heat. So that first heat was our quickest race. So we'll be looking back to that with these scullers as they come down in heat number 3 as to where they are in striking distance. But as we talked about in heat 2, all of these scullers just have to come down the course and throw their best shot at it. Obviously a little bit easier if you're able to work off of somebody, as we see the Traverse City Central and Pioneer sculler sort of trading strokes here, trying to push each other down the course as they vie for medals.
But insofar as pushing oneself, I'd say that the single sculler is certainly the most adept, right? This is every day for him or her. They're in this situation all the time where they're really sort of racing, themselves, the clock, and thusly this circumstance that they're facing. If anybody's ready for this sort of scenario today, it's all the athletes in the singles.
Yeah, and thankfully no one's added the men's novice single yet, but these athletes are certainly seasoned in condition and have some opportunity. I'm sure there's some coaches that maybe threw out a single sculler to get somebody an extra race here this weekend, but what we've seen of the field so far, certainly some athletes that it's not their first go here. Nice shot here again of that Pioneer sculler, working to just hang onto the stern deck, maybe push back into that Traverse City Central sculler, keeping them honest out in lane 1 and ensuring if that bow ball is still in front, it's not from a lack of effort.
Certainly just impressive to see, these athletes racing in a single. For all of you who are here at the regatta today, go take a look at a single. It's like 16 inches across, right? And it's got a round bottom, and you're balancing it with your timing and with what you're doing with the handles when the blade's out of the water. It's no small feat. It really isn't to be able to A, row this, and then B, race it with the sort of reckless abandon you have to have off the front end, off the footboard, completely trusting your connection to the water, right? Like, that is pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah, and certainly as we've watched racing come down this course for the last 5 weeks, getting to see the development of the athletes from their first opportunity racing this spring to where they are now, just seeing that developmental curve of technically being a little bit more proficient, a little bit more fitness, just being a little bit more conditioned to handling a racing environment. The Traverse City Central sculler has pushed out, probably picked up about a length and a half lead here, coming off the 750 as he pushes to the red buoys, just working to extend that lead.
Yeah, real strong second 500 from Traverse City Central there, and a nice rhythm, right? Sustainable, but aggressive.
Yeah, good leverage through the front half, carrying that acceleration of the back end, looking to take that next step.
But one can't sit on one's laurels up there, right? You know, everybody's well versed in what it is today, and you really have to keep your foot on the gas here, despite having what in other situations would be a commanding lead. The kid from TC Central here has to just keep throwing hands at this piece and just giving everything he's got with those legs.
Yeah, and certainly the Green Hills Northville battle in Heat 1, where the scullers were side by side in lanes 1 and 2, pushing each other down the course to the 2 fastest times of the day. We'll get a chance to see if this Traverse City Central sculler has the ability to throw down something in the 543, 545 range to nudge up and maybe knock out the Bloomfield sculler in the bronze medal position right now with a 556, but looking tall, long, and commanding here. Again, our running clock roughly at about 5 minutes here as he comes into the red buoys.
And into the final 250. Here we go. See if he's got a little bit more juice in the tank and kick it up a couple of beats.
Yeah, can we gear up? Can we go sub 6 here for 1,500 meters as a single sculler, which some good indication of some boat speed here. Great drone shot here as he comes into the beach. If you're on the beach, give him a little bit of noise. Let's see if we can get him under 6. See if we can get him into that bronze medal position.
He's certainly going for it. He knows where he's at, right? He knows where he's at. He knows what the situation is. I mean, just look at the acceleration of those handles, the first half of the drive, right?
Yeah, certainly not leaving anything on the course today here. Using this opportunity to just see where he's at.
Well, this is going to be close. This is going to be close.
This is going to be a very, very tight one.
He might have done it. He might have snuck himself into the medals there.
Yeah, we'll have
unofficially.
We'll have to see as things go official. It was a tight one there. Again, looking for that bronze medal position of 556. We may have been just on the outside of looking in, but a well-rode race there from the Traverse City Central sculler. The Pioneer sculler here who had battled and pushed him to the 750 coming across the line. Followed by the sculler from Spring Lake in lane 2. But a nice shot here of the finish line from our finish line camera.
And a good race here on the back end of the pack, right? Someone who's creating a circumstance that's forcing you to challenge yourself. That's all we can hope for.
So as the times come in, we'll get a sense of where those medals stack out. Again, looking to right now to dethrone the first heat of the Green Hills Northville Bloomfield 1, 2, 3. Okay, and now we're back up to the start here for the first heat of the men's varsity pair. We'll have 2. Lane 1, Green Hills, Lane 2, Carlson, Lane 3, Huron, Lane 4, Cranbrook, and Lane 5, EGR. And again, like the singles race we just watched, this will be a fastest time between the 2 semis to determine the medalist positions.
And we've got a real dandy here. This is a beaut, an absolute beaut. We got Huron, Carlson, under a length there, right? Very much in contact, but above the field. So these two, once again, a situation where you need that push, right? You either provide it yourself or your competitor provides it so as to get the best time.
Yeah, and Carlson and Huron certainly feeding off of each other here. Both crews doing a great job of keeping these boats running straight. Again, this is a coxless event, which means the athletes are both putting the effort in and trying to keep themselves going straight down the course. We're just about coming into the islands, the 750 mark. Both crews may be moving over to the island a little bit here in their lane, but doing a good job of staying relaxed.
That way today. I think we got a little bit of a quartering tail here, so it's going to sort of push them toward the island, toward shore, where everybody's watching from. Here we are, 750. Still looks like we're about a length difference between the two.
Yeah, some good press out of both of those crews. And again, just a quick look back to the men's varsity single, as we had 3 heats of that. That Traverse City Central sculler able to eke his way out into the bronze medal position by less than a second.
Wow.
So some phenomenal racing there. in a race where he really had to push himself. But again, in the men's varsity single, winner in that event, Green Hills, silver medal, Northville, bronze medal, the Traverse City Central Sculler. So great overhead shot here again. That opportunity to see the wakes looking back on the pairs, the disturbance that the boats are leaving, the puddles on either side, just the athletes in sync with each other, pressing away, leveraging. Carlson and Huron still doing a really great job of just staying long, staying pressing.
As impressive as is the cadence that Carlson's throwing down right now, they're steering. Like that last peak that we had there of their course, right? Like literally straight. Right, no waver for like the past 400 meters, and I mean, like the fastest course between 2 points, right, straight line, and these guys are absolutely killing it in that regard, really putting down a very strong piece. And the challenge with these boats too, right? You talked about it earlier, is that there's no coxswain doing the steering; it's all pressure that's doing the steering, or maybe you have a rudder on your toe where the athlete can kind of pivot his foot to do a little bit of steering, but more often than not, like it's Bauman's sensitivity to where he is relative to those buoys, right? Does he got to put a little extra juice on? Does he have to back off a little bit? Because again, like you mentioned, Russ, like that straight line, keeping those boats straight is so critical for this particular event.
Yeah, absolutely, and the ability for each rower to sort of complement their pair partner here and helping that boat go fast. Certainly watched many a pairs matrix over the years where it's not necessarily about having the fastest piece, but rowing the best with your partners here. As both of these crews just extend and push out. Really cool to see.
Now Huron's going for it. Did you see that shift up there from these guys?
Yeah, they're looking to spool out, ensure that they're not leaving the door open here to the Green Hills crew in lane 1, but just continuing to drive out the Carlson and Huron crew, just entering those red buoys, that final 250, but pressing away, getting some really good send.
Yep, Carlson's going to want to make a little correction here and get them back into the center of the lane. An ideal world.
Certainly, but they're doing what it takes here to put their bow in front.
Yep.
Might not end in their lane, but they're going to make it across the finish line here. Not impeding lane 1 Green Hills.
No. Not a situation where we would be worried about protest or anything like that. There's certainly plenty of gap between those two crews.
So as we finish there, the first semi of the men's varsity pair, we'll end up going back up to the start for the second semi, a 4-boat race. And we'll see what those 4 crews can throw down in relation to these times from the first semi, and then get a sense of medalists and speed. But some well-rowed races here from some of these pairs. Again, a challenging event to row, similar to the single. It's a little bit of a lead sled, and takes just a little bit more coordination than a 4 or an 8. So these crews really laying it out there and showing some good grit as they race a challenging boat category.
I'd say that this might be the category that has the most flips occur in a race.
Yeah, certainly the event that has the highest likelihood of becoming more than just a rowing race and maybe a little bit of swimming involved. So thankfully, everyone was able to stay upright. The official holding up the white flag, finalizing the race.
We are in progress on the next one.
All right. Quick shout out to all the hardworking volunteers that make this event happen. It is so cool to see such a massive effort from so many parents, alumni, coaches. It's really a labor of love to bring you guys a regatta like this, and we're excited to be here and reporting on it. So this is the second semi for the varsity pair. In lane 1, Celine. Lane 2, Pioneer. Lane 3, Northville. And lane 4, Skyline.
And it looks like we've got
like they stopped the race. We got a crash.
A little bit of contact there between Celine and Pioneer. So the officials will sort things out and probably cycle them around, bringing them back into the start. We may bring them straight back to the stake boats, or we may end up running the next event. We'll find out as you find out here from the live stream. But again, one of the misadventures of coming off the line and having to do it all yourself. Certainly that first heat did a good job of laying down some pretty good textbook lines that I would imagine many coxswains would be happy with.
Oh, absolutely.
But as we swing around here, they'll get the crews back off the course, probably load them back into lanes, and we'll get a second go of it here.
And here's the thing. Skyline was cooking. Skyline was out with absolute ferocity, right? Like they were up in the lead. So like now we get into the psychological aspect of the sport period, really. Like, okay, this happened. Now you have to hit a reset here. You have to get yourself to just like shake this off. Remind yourself that like, yo, we just did this. We can certainly do this again. We can have that great start. We can have that great first 20 strokes. Just got to lock in on our cues that allow us to be quick out of the ditch and make it happen. But, you know, certainly I think that crews that are a bit more seasoned are a bit more adept at that mental challenge.
Yeah, certainly. And all these athletes have had the opportunity to, along with their coaches, to sort of try to make the most of the morning today as plan A turns to B and C. So these athletes are pretty well versed at that at this point, and thankfully we're on the tail end of a spring racing season, not the first racing weekend of the year. Certainly would not have wanted to race a pair back in the middle of April.
No.
But as the water temps have come up, as our ability to execute has come up, you can see these crews pulling right back down in their lane, pulling a quick 180, and we'll watch them back onto the stake boats and get things going.
Do you remember the first time you ever rode a pair?
I remember the first time I flipped a pair at Midwest Champs. And we were in the lead too.
Oh.
Yeah, it was the final 500, and we were just kind of bringing it up, and all of a sudden, I think I caught a digger. I'm going to take full responsibility for that, but we managed to get back in, and I think we rode it into 5th. So at least we didn't finish last.
Wow.
Yeah, it was heartbreak central.
Oh, that's right. For me, it was absolutely terrifying. It was when I was rowing at the Wyandotte Boat Club in the summer. And I'd never done this before, and I always thought that like maybe coach might clear it with you, like, hey, have you ever done this before? Like, oh, we're gonna have you do this today. Nah, that's where you're going.
Godspeed.
Go row it.
Yes.
Awful, like diamonds.
Certainly the trial by fire. I think most people can recall back to their sporting days of the first time they had to try or do something from a skill set standpoint that they look back now and think, what was my coach thinking?
Right. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, as long as it's a somewhat safe environment, you're not putting kids out in cold water.
Nope.
Yeah.
It's the middle of the summer on the Detroit River.
There you go.
And had we flipped it, I would have taken that over what we were actually doing. Some of the worst rowing of my life. I was so tense. I swear to God, like, put some coal between my neck and my shoulders, and I got a diamond necklace. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that tense. Awful, but got better, right?
Yeah.
I got better at it over the course of the summer, and like these athletes here, like it's the juxtaposition of tension and relaxation, and really it's one of the events that I think really heightens that juxtaposition, because it's just the two of you, right? The boat's so sensitive to everything that you're doing. You really do need to relax and think flow and rhythm when the blades are out of the water. And then when you do connect, like, you got to make sure that the connection is precise, small movements.
And this boat has really become a hallmark of a lot of big schools training programs at the collegiate level. I remember seeing University of Washington, arguably the top men's program in the country right now. They spend a solid 6 weeks in the fall in this boat just to dial in their skill. And looks like we've got the start, but already we're seeing some lane exploration.
Please.
I really hope Skyline doesn't.
There we go. All right. Okay. Tragedy averted.
Okay. Our hearts were in our throats, folks.
Yeah, all the crews are able to get off here as we exit the red buoys. Again, a note on the course here, that opening 100 meters, we've got red buoys, that breakage zone area, as the rowers clear that and head into the yellow buoys, headed on the straight and narrow, relaxing out, maybe a little bit of the jitters out from that first misadventure. But all crews just on the straight and narrow here. That Skyline crew doing what they did in the first go of it, just lengthening out, working to see if they can just find their rhythm, row their race.
This looks good. This looks good. I tell you what, I'd take this, right? Pretty clean.
Yeah.
Grabbing water behind them and punchy, right? Like good press off the footboard there.
Yeah, some really good send from Skyline. Not the longest strokes necessarily, but sometimes when you've got mismatched size in a pair, like one person does have to either get a little bit shorter or or really overextend, and that's never a good thing.
No.
Overextending is never gonna get you where you need to go.
No, because you got to keep yourself in a strong position, right? I mean, if I'm looking at these two, I'm guessing that bow seat's probably a little bit taller than stroke seat, but stroke seat, great posture.
Yeah.
Really driving the legs first, pushing the hips back while keeping the body forward. Just great leverage, great connection from stroke.
That's a great shout there.
And they're doing a good job here of pressing and prying together here. We're looking to move out on Pioneer and Northville in 2 and 3, who are trading blows back and forth here. The Celine crew just on the stern of the Pioneer crew, but all crews staying long and relaxed, as we saw in the previous heat. This is, again, it's a long race, and these athletes are going into a well here as they enter into that second 500, just trying to push and see if they can put a little pressure on each other.
Call me crazy here, or is Pioneer being a little bit coy?
Yeah, it certainly looks like Pioneer is underrating a little bit here. Whether they're saving something for the second half as we come through the island.
Pioneer gets to the island. I think they got a surprise here for us.
Yeah, we may see if someone bow seat yells out jungle rules and they all go. But certainly rowing comfortably and controlled here in lane 2. That Celine crew rowing a little bit of a higher cadence, working to just get that bow back in. Again, they had Pioneer and Celine a little misadventure on the first start of this race. I mean,
Pio's eating into Northville right now. Northville's got to just kind of work that steering a little bit, which easier said than done. Very much aware.
Looks like Celine is having a tough time with their steering too.
Yeah.
Sort of getting friendly with some of those buoys.
You do not want those buoys. Your blade hooks around that buoy. You have the potential of catching a crab. The boat stops.
Yeah.
Most importantly, even just clipping a buoy, it just throws your rhythm off, right? Yeah. And something like this, an event that's so dependent on small adjustments, small movements, that can really be a killer for you.
Yeah.
Northville back on it though. They got themselves sorted with the steering here, and seem to be extending the lead over Pioneer.
Pioneer's still underrating the rest of the field by a significant amount, though.
I mean, if I had to guess, I'd say 20.
Yeah, 2022.
Right?
Yeah.
Well,
Northville getting a little bit sideways with their course, correcting, and Skyline just
Skyline's
really
I don't want anything to do with that.
Skyline well and clear.
My name's Paul. That's between y'all. I'm out.
Skyline crew pushing up probably 5 or 6 lengths here as we come into the closing 500, really striking a strong cadence, pushed out on the field, and again still waiting for those times to get finalized from the first semi to just have a sense of what we're looking at in relation to comparisons from semi 1 to semi 2 for the medals. But the Skyline crew certainly doing what it takes here in the semi number 2 to press out and push away from Pioneer, Northville, and Celine.
Yeah, really important point to make, though, for any new or up-and-coming rowers. If you want to get good at rowing, row small boats. Mm-hmm. Get in a pair, get in a single as much as you can. Get that boat feel, get a sense of what it takes to have mastery over the entirety of your boat, so that when you step into a team boat, you're bringing just another level of skills and refinement to the blades, to the press, but mostly just to your balance, like being able to balance one of these small boats. I love that Chris brought up the dimensions of a single scull earlier, because it really is the test, the ultimate test of our sport.
Yeah, and as this race comes into the final 250 here with that Skyline crew, time's just up from the first semi. That Carlson crew going a 536.7 over Huron at a 543.6, Green Hills at a 550.5, Cranbrook at a 603, and EGR at a 625. Oh, the Skyline crew
fell
looks
off
like
his seat. Off his seat. Oh, brother, get back.
One of the lesser seen hazards
dear.
Of rowing is occasionally your butt can come right off that seat, and you see they're kind of acting frantically right now. I think her seat might have come off. I don't think she has any slide right now.
Yeah, I think his seat definitely came off. A little bit of quarter slide builders here. They're just trying to match up and just see what they can do to get across the line again. If they can come in under 550, then they have a shot of nipping the bronze medal from Green Hills, but they may have had another bout with misadventure here, but it's not going to be from a lack of effort getting that ball across the line.
Certainly not a lack of effort there. Certainly not a lack of effort.
Golly.
Boy.
Definitely the highest rated crew we've seen this morning.
Wow.
It makes you wonder, though. I think they would have potentially had that first place finish had that slide not come the seat not come right off the slides.
They were definitely in the conversation for that. That's without a doubt.
Yeah.
The Northville Pioneer Cruise coming across the
Pioneer
line.
finally brings it up.
There you go.
Fellas.
Racing it across the line. A little bit of buoy pop there, but Celine as well here as we come down to the pair. Again, all these crews showing a pretty good job here of handling a very challenging boat class, probably one of the most difficult of the day. We'll end up heading back up to the start here, heading back to some bigger boats. We've got the Women's Varsity 4, semi number 1. Again, this will be 2 semis. We're looking to compare times between the two for the medalists. We've got an 8-boat race here for semi number 1. Lane 1 will be Orchard Lake St. Mary. Lane 2, Huron. Lane 3, Pioneer. Lane 4, Forest Hill Central. Lane 5, EGR. Lane 6, Trenton. Lane 7, Forest Hills Northern. And Lane 8, Northville. We've got all the crews locked onto the start here.
So what, Huron's having a heck of a spring. They've shown speed in a number of events, and definitely would be my my crew to pick that's on the come up. I'd keep an eye on Huron here.
Yeah, they certainly had a strong race last week at Midwest behind Orchard Lake St. Mary in this event. And having spoken with their coaching staff earlier this week, these ladies are headed down to Scholastic Nationals in Tennessee to test their mettle against the rest of the Scholastic world. So it'll be exciting to see what they can throw down here, as we should have some fast racing across the course.
Yeah, they put together, Huron's ladies put together a great piece in the Varsity 8. I believe they finished second there. And I'd have to look at the times from last weekend, but since I coach at St. Mary's, I know that we were a bit more ahead of Huron last week. So kudos to them, and a good week of practice and finding some more speed. Let's see if it shows up in the 4 as well.
Yeah, it's certainly, I mean, we talk a little bit about this idea of development across a season as these coaches are looking to work with these athletes, and I think it's sometimes lost as we talk about results, as we talk about, seeing the pairs coming down, the singles coming down, of just what that development trajectory looks like, and the simple fact that a lot of the day-to-day, these athletes are not training, they're not putting the work in because they get to race a lot. This is not a racing sport, it's a training sport. And so these athletes, these coaches spend a lot of time working with each other, cultivating a process and a culture that the kids buy into. And the result is what we see here. Whether or not you say, hey, the result of the race time is exactly what the payout is, or it's just the function of these kids taking these steps forward and developing as athletes, developing as people. Again, we've had 5 weeks of racing for a lot of these teams. Many of them, this is the 5th consecutive weekend of racing here at the Kathryn Bennett Racecourse with the 3 mitten series, Midwest and now States. But these athletes have put a lot of time in, and that developmental curve, I think, is the thing that sometimes is lost as you are here looking at racing.
Yeah, no, I mean, to not get too philosophical, but just for a moment, like, people often conflate performance with result. The two are mutually exclusive.
And absolutely.
Pioneer.
Heck of a start here as the Coxons keep everything straight, keep everything fair. But a real push out here in this opening 10 strokes from Pioneer in lane 3, looking to make a little bit of a statement, maybe over to Huron and Orchard Lake St. Mary from Midwest last week, and just say, we're looking to go not to be forgotten in lane 8. Northville also pressing up in that sort of sneak inside lane. Again, one of the beauties of an 8-lane racing course.
We talked about that last week, right?
You can get a lot of great racing happening, and it does allow, even though we're comparing times here from Semi 1 to Semi 2, we're not going to be racing into finals. These athletes getting a great opportunity to just press out this wide shot, looking to the woods with the racing coming down.
St. Mary's going all Lee Corso here. Not so fast, my friend.
Yeah,
not so fast.
St. Mary's really found a solid rhythm there and just started accelerating through the latter end of that first 250.
Yep.
Coming off the high strokes, Orchard Lake St. Mary finding a really good base press and rhythm, just hanging on the oar. They're in the lead. We've got Pioneer in lane 3, probably in second. Then it is maybe 2 feet between a charging Northville to Huron in lane 2.
Yeah, that's tight.
Then we come to Forest Hill Central.
Not out of it. Only
not
a
out of it
seat
at all.
or so down on Northville.
East Grand Rapids has contact too there in lane 5, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're rowing a bucket rig.
Oh yeah.
Always going to get some free speed with the bucket.
These are facts.
Looks like St. Mary's has just started to carve out what might be a little bit of an open water lead.
Don't look now. Here comes Huron.
Huron is really
Huron.
starting to step on the gas there. Northville is also starting to accelerate a little bit too, it looks like. St. Mary's keeping about a bow to stern deck lead. Might be a tiny bit of open water for St. Mary's, but wow, we've got Pioneer, Huron, and Northville vying for second right now.
Pio responding.
Goodness
Pio
gracious.
responding to Huron's push.
Wow.
This next 300 meters.
Yeah.
This, in my opinion, this is where one of these three, Northville, Pio, Huron, really makes a statement.
Northville looking like they're rowing pretty efficiently too. It's not the longest strokes, but they are punchy with it. And now as our drone starts to pan over to the other side of the course, we're looking right now at lanes 1, 2, and 3, where Pioneer and Huron are duking it out stroke for stroke for that silver medal position.
You know, could be some strategy here from Huron, right? Like you made that push back up. You may look to just sort of sustain that push here, and then as we approach the final 500, start gearing up, start building some more momentum so you really feel that your boat is surging as you're coming into the final 500.
I heard an excellent observation from one of our volunteers at the finish line earlier, and that is that this sport teaches you how to pace yourself. Without proper pacing, a lot of race strategies sort of fall flat, and Huron might be giving us an exemplary little picture of that right now, because sometimes if you can just pace it well enough to really wind it up for your sprint, amazing things can occur. And it looks like Huron is maybe inching out over Pioneer.
Yeah. Few feet, maybe half the deck.
Yeah, certainly they're trading inches here in second. Orchard Lake looking tall and relaxed as they press out, but Pioneer and Huron in lanes 2 and 3 pushing off of each other. Northville trying to stay in contact here as they sort of row out by themselves in lane 8, doing a good work here. But a lot of crews making some good adjustments from Midwest last week, where we saw a lot of races decided in that second 500. Just the grit coming off the island to the 1,000 of putting down a hard pace. But none of these crews are faltering here. And as we look to the middle of the course, Forest Hill Central, EGR, looking to come back up on Northville, and the Pioneer Huron still open water to them, but really looking to push up into the racing.
Boy. Just response after response here. Be it from Huron, be it from Pioneer, right? These two crews sharing the same boathouse. I'm sure they know one another very, very well. No strangers to one another here, and things are about to get very personal in these final 400 meters.
East Grand Rapids just took it up too, and they're starting to separate themselves from the field. I don't know if they're going to have enough to catch up with Pioneer and Huron right now, but it looks like Huron maybe just eked out a little bit of a lead, and then Pioneer responded. Wow, they were just going punch for punch over there in lanes 2 and 3.
Yeah,
exciting.
A lot of it is going to be how can those Pioneer and Huron crews just stay relaxed and just keep cranking on that front end while staying upright and not collapsing as they come into that finish.
Right, so that you're holding onto the water, you're getting out cleanly, you're able to balance your boat, and most importantly, everything that you've done with that drive, from the moment the blade goes in the water to the moment the blade comes out, is effective.
Yeah, but they are continuing to trade stroke for stroke here. Pioneer looking to maybe edge out just a little bit. We'll see if Huron takes it up. The Orchard Lake crew continuing to extend out that lead, just tall, long, and pressing. Some really just nice, clean, exemplary rowing. But that Pioneer crew picking up maybe about a deck of an advantage here as we come into the beach, this closing 100, 150 meters.
Wow, Pio standing on it. Standing on it.
EGR has pushed up over Northville here for that 4th place spot in this first semi. But Pioneer really looking to push away here, looking to open up.
If this had been a 2K course, I think East Grand Rapids would have potentially caught up with Pioneer. And wow, they're cooking right into Huron's position right now.
Nearly a length.
It's very impressive from that East Grand Rapids crew.
Wow, 100%.
I mean, that was only a deck down for East Grand Rapids. The magic of the bucket, folks.
So coming across the line there, we had Orchard Lake in the lead, then Pioneer and Huron, followed by EGR. We'll again have to look and see how things throw down and shake out in the semi number 2 here, but certainly those crews doing a good job of laying down some hard-fought times and laying the gauntlet for the second semi to have to really come off the line aggressive.
Chris, is this St. Mary's Varsity 4 the same lineup that won SRA last year in the Junior 4 event? Same lineup?
Junior 4, no.
Okay.
We've got 3 seniors and a sophomore in that boat this year.
Gotcha. Impressive stuff from the 4 in St. Mary's. Well done to those ladies.
And now the worst part. We got to sit around and wait for the times.
Yeah, when it's not as simple as just a drag race down the course, and now you got to wonder how is the math going to shake out here.
Yeah.
But we'll head up and get a chance to see that in a second, and then we'll all wait and refresh our phones together.
Really electrifying, though, seeing that Pioneer and Huron showdown. It's amazing what can happen when you have a boat side by side right next to you. It's like you almost unlock some ethereal capabilities, the limits beyond your limits. And that's one of the reasons why a hero of our sport, George Pocock, if a new crew was getting established and they placed an order with him, he was a famous boat builder out in Seattle. If they placed an order for one boat, George Pocock would legendarily provide 2 boats because he was convinced that you cannot have a competitive program unless you have boats competing with each other at practice. And now we are riding along with the second semifinal of the women's varsity coxed 4. Lane 1 on the right side of your screen, Wyandotte. Lane 2, Grosse Ile. Lane 3, Rockford. Lane 4, Lowell. Lane 5, Riverview. Lane 6, Carlson. And Lane 7, Cranbrook. We've got a 7-boat race here. And right now it looks to me as though Rockford in that black boat in lane 3 has just a tiny edge of a lead, but I would not count out Cranbrook or Wyandotte over there in lane 1. Both of them kind of edging on the heels.
Yeah, it does look, I think, like we've got a scratch in 7 from the Cranbrook crew, so I think we've got Carlson in 6.
Good on Russ, thank you.
As today has been a anything but Plan A day, and coaches have had to tweak and change how they do things. Regatta organizers doing the best they can to not compress the schedule too much, create conflicts.
Yeah, it's a delicate dance for any program that brings boats here because along with having to manage your athletes, you have to manage your equipment, and oftentimes that means sharing shells from one race to the other. Sometimes there's even hot seats that occur where you're wiping off the sweat from the rower that just got out of the boat so that you can take it down the course.
Yeah, but a good commanding lead here being established in 1 and 3 here as Wyandotte and Rockford look to push out on the field a little bit. Carlson and Grosse Ile sort of trading back and forth here, overlapped for that 3rd, 4th position. Lowell and Riverview then still in contact there. But all these crews doing a good job of establishing that push. Again, racing the clock here. The gauntlet has been set by that first event. Again, that Orchard Lake St. Mary crew going 5:40, Pioneer 5:51, Huron 5:54. So to be of medalist speed here, that's what we're going to be looking at out of the second Varsity 4 semi. Crews looking to extend as we push through the 500-meter mark. That Rockford crew looking really tall, long, and relaxed.
Yeah.
Good cadence, definitely understroking the Wyandotte boat out in lane 1.
Yeah, by a pretty significant amount. Wyandotte might be spinning their wheels at this point as they see Rockford starting to make some moves towards them, but I think Wyandotte just made a pretty effective move, though. It looks like they found some better traction, and that higher rate is paying off for them now, but hopefully they don't write too many checks that their bodies can't cash.
Yeah, for sure. His next 400 will demonstrate whether or not they've got the training to hang in, right? They've put themselves in a great position, right? Timing looks sharp. Cleanliness looks sharp. So they're certainly doing plenty of things to not slow the boat down. Now just going to be a demonstration of do they have the legs? Sustaining so far, like nothing's changed. Like over these past 200 meters into the second 500, they're still just tapping it along. And there's lots of ways to move a boat. Lots of ways to move a boat.
Certainly, and as we're dealing with times to medals here out of multiple events, a little bit of a mentality shift of teaching your athletes how to race the progression, regardless of how far you up are right now in this semi or the previous semi, fully knowing that it's going to come down to the clock. And if you're up by a length, you might need another length. You might need 3 lengths in order to throw down the time necessary to medal here. So with the dogfight we saw between Huron Pioneer in the first semi, a little bit more separation here, but Wyandotte, your leader here, about astern, a little bit of open water over the Rockford crew. And then as the camera pans back here, looking onto the rest of the field, looks like Grosse Ile in lane 2, Carlson in lane 6, then to Lowell in lane 4, and Riverview in 5. But a great shot here as we pan out of these varsity 4s, laying it down, coming down the course.
It's a great point that Russ made too about wanting as much of a buffer as you can between that next crew, because lest we forget, your seat could always come off and you might have to row it off without a slide, and so you always want to make sure that no matter what, you're in a position to secure that W. And Looks like Wyandottes doing a great job here, although Rockford is nipping at their heels.
Away,
yeah,
right?
they're
not going away, and they've got the room to go up.
Yeah.
If they've got the stuffing.
Looks like they just walked a little bit and might have a deck overlap now. Starting to get a slight contact.
Yeah, certainly. But that Wyandotte crew continuing to just crank away
responded.
here.
Yep. Yeah. It's a pretty cool thing when you can be in the lead and see the rest of the field behind you, and you kind of know instinctually when to respond. And crews are dealing with a little bit of wake right now. You saw a slight shudder through that Rockford boat. Hopefully it doesn't toss off the rhythm too much. Wyandotte experiencing that wake right now. You can kind of see the boats bobbing up and down.
Yeah.
Rowers having to do a little bit of balancing. It slowed them down a slight bit. They're finding their flow again. Maybe Rockford can take advantage of that, but it looks like Wyandotte's holding strong.
Yeah, staying clean. We'll look for the start of the red buoys, indicating that we've come into that final 250 here as the drone pans around. Gives us a look back on the racing, watching these ladies pressing and swinging together. Well, it looks like as we pan over, we might have had an oar pop in the stroke seat of the Rockford crew.
Oh,
tragic.
Thankfully, it looks like they've got control of it. The other three ladies are continuing to press that bow ball down the course. Hopefully the stroke seat can get that oar back in the oar lock and get the gate closed and get back into it.
Oh, that's going to be really tough for that coxswain to manage their course, though, without one rower doing the thing. That's 25% of your impulse. All right, and they're back to it. There we go.
And they're back on it. Wyandotte continuing to press out here. Rockford doesn't look like they've lost an immense amount of distance, but again, we're looking to race the clock here. Orchard Lake going 5:40, Pioneer 5:51, and Huron at 5:54. Looks like with the running clock that will probably stand as our medalists in the first semi. But that Wyandotte crew continuing to do a good job of just leveraging, pressing their bow forward, taking that next step as athletes.
Yeah, they really just brought it up in the past 10 strokes or so. You can see they're aggressively getting after that sprint, throwing it all out there.
But coming across the line there, Wyandotte first in the semi number 2, followed by Rockford. Did a good job of responding to some adversity there. And it looks like Grosse Ile will hold on to that third place position here in the second semi of the women's varsity 4.
Great view right now to the right of your picture of the tents and the stands, and the energy on the beach is so much fun. Got a lot of really positive supporters bringing their cheers as it looks like Carlson is just about to cross the line. Shout out to that Carlson crew. Followed by, I think that's Lowell, and then Riverview. Riverview's got some of the most fun blade design, I think. They've got a old Jolly Roger, a bunch of pirates out there from Riverview.
And as those crews come across the line, just a quick update on the points. Orchard Lake for the overall points at 102, Skyline at 89, Northville at 83. Women's sweep, Orchard Lake leading with 56.4 over Northville at 27.6. Huron jumping up to 26.4, just over Skyline for third place in the women's sweep total points. The men's sweep, we've got Orchard Lake at 32, Pioneer at 20, and Huron at 20, just over Carlson. Women's sculling, we've got Skyline at 44, Northville at 36, Orchard Lake at 13.6, and then finally the men's sculling, Green Hills 25, Skyline 16, EGR 15.
And we are flying right now with the first semifinal of the men's varsity coxed 4. In lane 1, to the far right of your picture, Orchard Lake St. Mary's. Lane 2, Northville. Lane 3, Grosse Ile. Lane 4, Forest Hill Central. Lane 5, Pioneer. Lane 6, Wyandotte. Lane 7, Forest Hills Northern. And to the left of your picture, in lane 8, Cranbrook.
It's like a really good start for Grosse Ile here.
Yeah.
Right? Kind of poking their bow ball up into the conversation with some of the heavy hitters, Northville and St. Mary's.
Yeah. Beautiful, distinctive red boat out there, too. Quite vivid against the water. St. Mary's looks like they just might have a tiny bit of open water. And, boy, it's anyone's call for second and third place right now. It looks like Northville and Grosse Ile are going stroke for stroke.
Really, yeah.
Duking it out.
Absolutely.
Wow, what a slugfest. That's exciting.
Yeah, certainly laying down the gauntlet here in lane 1, Orchard Lake St. Mary, pressing aggressively on that front end, carrying that rhythm, not shortening up as they push towards the island here, looking to establish an aggressive second 250.
Yeah,
Northville responding a little bit here to Grosse Ile.
Absolutely. Good race here between Grosse Ile and Northville. And again, get it back, kids. Again, to the comment I made earlier about lots of ways to move a boat, right? Like, so long as you're good around that front end, so long as we're connecting at the end of the recovery while the boat's still high in the water, you really can go up to God's country with the rating, right? If you've put in the training and your cardiovascular is there, you can sustain it. But again, the skill level of these athletes, you're doing all of this in a round bottom boat in water that you're balancing with, 13-foot sticks, right? Like, it shouldn't be lost on anyone here just how athletic these athletes are.
Yeah, and certainly across the field, all these athletes are doing a good job of pressing their rhythm, working based on the work they've put in thus far this season. Clearly, the Orchard Lake boys have put in some miles throughout the cold Michigan winter.
And I think I said something last week on the Midwest stream about how, natural ability is only going to get you so far. And then I think it was Chris that chimed in and said, the natural ability in this sport is the ability to work hard. This sport really rewards those that can grind and grind consistently. And at the end of the day, it's going to be the crew that put in more time, that put in more effort, that's usually going to walk away with the W.
And a little bit of a pan-out shot here. Orchard Lake, Northville, Grosse Ile in that order, 1, 2, 3. Then coming back to Forest Hill Central, Pioneer, and Wyandotte, who all have overlap in 4th through 6th.
Yeah, Grosse Ile caught a digger. It looked like right around maybe 600 meters, and they just have not been able to really claw their way back. I think it was something that happened on port side, but it just looked like they got a little bit ahead of themselves and then have just kind of maintained the same distance from Northville since then. But Orchard Lake St. Mary's still walking on Northville. Northville just can't seem to claw into that lead. Orchard Lake St. Mary's rowing really punchy. I just love seeing so much send, and they're clearing their puddles in magnificent fashion here.
Just aggressive,
yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
they're efficient, right? Really, really efficient. No slowdown in the hull. As they arrive at the catch again, they're picking it back up and sending it. And the only way to get there is a lot of strokes, man.
Yeah.
You can't fake it, right? You absolutely can't fake it. There's one way to the top.
Yeah, but Orchard Lake doing a phenomenal job here of pushing across the finish line, coming past the awards dock. Having pushed out a little bit on Northville here. Chris will be back in a moment. I think he's a little excited to see those boats come across the line in person. We, of course, are sitting sequestered in a mobile command center, so we're a little isolated here, but some excitement there from a coach who's put a lot of effort into those boys over 4 years.
Yeah, it's worth noting that Chris, who just left the commentator's van, is the head coach of St. Mary's, so he's obviously invested and passionate about that program.
Yeah, and getting a chance to touch base with a lot of coaches that, the beauty of regattas is you get to see everyone without really trying. And touching base with a lot of coaches who have dealt with some ups and downs of a pretty tough Michigan winter, even for those of us in the south end of the state who don't have to deal with the late thaws. It's been a wild weather year, so a lot of coaches just enjoying the fact that we can get some good racing done here today at the Michigan State Championship. And we've got some sunny weather. It's not windy. We're not dealing with whitecaps. So it's a great way for these athletes to have an opportunity and coaches to end a season and put a little bit of a cherry on top of a lot of hard work.
Yeah, I think this might have been a season that had a disproportionate amount of rowing machine time versus the actual rowing. All right, and we are right now about to hop into, I believe, the second semifinal of the men's varsity coxed 4. All the way up at the top in Lane 1, Spring Lake. Lane 2, Skyline. Lane 3, Riverview. And Lane 4, Huron. Right now it looks like that Huron boat is giving the rest of the field the business.
Yeah, they clearly, while we didn't see it, did a great job of getting off the start and just establishing this base push, sort of what we saw out of the Orchard Lake, Northville, Grosse Ile combinations in that first semi of just laying down a hard opening base and establishing that push. Again, the challenge here for this Huron crew will be racing the time from this previous semi, and if they're pushing out a little bit here, can they stay on the gas hard enough to stay in contention for that time-based medal assignment?
Yeah, if I was anyone from the first heat, seeing this distance in the second heat would give me pause.
Yeah.
I would not get too fired up just yet. because the time that Huron might be putting down could be something serious. I mean, again, like that is a commanding lead that Huron has right now.
They are pressing out, and the drone giving us a look back here at the Skyline, Riverview, and Spring Lake crews who are doing their best here to lay down a time relative to the first semi. Both these crews here from Skyline and Spring Lake looking relaxed, just having not asserted themselves quite as aggressively as Huron. Huron doing a really good job of being the aggressor and saying that we are going to be the speed of this semi, and you're going to have to really push to stay with us. The drone working to pan back out, catch back up with Huron, who we just come to see those puddles. Again, a really commanding lead here from this Huron crew, really pressing out.
So hypothetically, what would happen if we got the exact same time for the winner of a semi versus the other semi?
I would be mathematically impressed. That would be over 1,500 meters, all the strokes these athletes are taking. If we were to come down to a dead heat here, honestly, even across any of the medalist times would be pretty impressive here, especially for a Huron crew that is pushed out to probably about a 78 meter lead here over Skyline in lane 2, then Spring Lake in 3, and Riverview in 4. But we're looking as the times pop up here and are populated from the first semi. Orchard Lake St. Mary throwing down almost a 5.1. Wow. Northville a 5.08, and Grosse Ile a 5.14. That 5 flat is, as someone who spent a number of years coaching high school fours in the New York area, that is a fast time.
That is. I mean, honestly, you go out to the SRAs and you're racing for the national championship. Your crews in the finals will be under 5.
Yeah, so this Huron crew here, as they're coming into the beach, again, that time they're looking to match, that 5 flat from Orchard Lake St. Mary is going to be a pretty high bar to set, but can we squeak into a medalist?
Into a medal here? I think that's possible.
5:14 is the time to beat to get into the bronze medal position, and it looks like they're possibly going to contend for that.
I think
Here we go, yep.
Yeah, so it looks like
unofficially
comparing times there. Orchard Lake, the winner of the men's varsity 4. Northville potentially holding on to that silver medal position, and then just waiting to determine here as times come in between that hard-charging Huron crew that laid down a barn burner out in front. A well-coached crew there just pushing on the strokes. He clearly elated with showing off his grit.
Love to see that personality.
But again, another impressive performance from Huron.
Yeah.
Huron really been on the come up this year. Have had not just like a crew. Okay, you're a big team. You got just one hot crew. No. They've had a number of crews that have really showed well. I mean, they're freshman 4. Yeah. Finishing 3rd in that event, right? Like that's certainly good news for the future for the River Rats.
Yeah. Yeah, back in my day, Huron was the only crew around in Ann Arbor, but Pioneer came on the scene and kind of shook that up. And then since then, we've had Skyline, and it's been great to see the Ann Arbor rowing scene just really, maximizing all of that great water that they have down there. And beautiful shot of the boatyard to your right, the tents in the middle, and the drone just having a blip.
Yeah, hopefully maybe the drone's going to come over and land in the boatyard, but
and shout out to our drone crew. They're doing such a good job. It's like a never-ending pit crew behind us of charging and landing and taking off again and charging some more. Speaking of charging, we've got the women's varsity double first semi charging down the course. Lane 1 to the right of your picture is Skyline. Lane 2 got TC Central. Lane 3 Forest Hills East. Lane 4, TC West. Lane 5, Spring Lake. Lane 6, Rockford. And Lane 7 to the left of your picture in that yellow boat, East Grand Rapids.
Yeah, this will be the first of 2 semis. So again, we will have a second semi coming up after this with 5 more boats in it to determine your gold, silver, and bronze medalists in the women's varsity double here at the Michigan State Championship. But again, going back into a coxed class here, seeing a little bit of a bobble as the crews look to find the rhythm and match pressure and speed here. But Skyline looking like they've pushed out a little bit here on Forest Hills Eastern, going 1-2. A little bit challenging here, figuring out that 3rd place position just with the parallax. But it appears Traverse City West, not assuming that something's not going on in 6 and 7 with Rockford and EGR. With that drone panning out a little bit here. Skyline doing a really nice job of just pressing and swinging together, staying long and relaxed.
Keeping the boat moving, right? It's kind of like, so folks that might be watching this and are unfamiliar to the sport, like, take a look at the stern of the boat, which is technically the end of the boat that the athletes are facing, right? And juxtapose it to something stationary on land. And what you want to see is just constant speed. That stern just keeps moving. There's very little difference between slowdown and pickup, right? And I think that this Skyline crew is a really good example of that. Keeping the boat high in the water, tapping it along, and not allowing it to slow down between strokes.
I've been very impressed today with Skyline's posture. They sit up tall, they really get great leverage on the oars, and it's clear that they spend a lot of time emphasizing that posture, that really good core support, keeping their sternums up as they row, not collapsing into the catch. It's a really great wonder to see at the high school level, seeing such proficiency with the posture.
Posture like that, they must all have played piano.
Yeah, right.
All of them. The whole lot of them.
They're all doing a lot of planks after practice every single day.
Right.
Planks and piano. Give you that posture.
Gets it done.
Triple P threat. And riding along right now with the Skyline crew, you can see their blades are pretty well synced up. They're both kind of looking over their left shoulder, though. I think that they're both very aware of this crew knocking on their door. I think we might just have contact here.
Yeah, Forest Hills Eastern looking like they're pushing that bow ball up into the current leader's Skyline. Then back to Traverse City West. A little bit of bounce in the course again. As we come out to this second 750, you will notice that the water gets a little bit more ripply. The boats will bounce a little bit more, both from just the water getting a little rougher.
It looks like the wind has shifted, though. I don't think we're seeing as much crosswind conditions. It looks like almost a straight tailwind, which is going to make these crews a little bit faster, but it's also tougher to row, especially getting the blades in and out cleanly into these tailwind conditions.
Yeah, and it looks like Skyline has responded here to the push on by Forest Hills Eastern.
Thank you.
Forest Hills Eastern pushing up and establishing themselves over Traverse City West, though, is our 1-2-3 here. Again, all these crews working to race the clock here, so as it currently sits, Skyline, Forest Hills Eastern, and Traverse City West are our medal contenders, but we've still got to get bow balls across the line. We've seen in some of these small boats, or even in the fours, some misadventure and a need to respond to adversity and just keep going, keep laying it down. That Skyline crew looking to extend out the push just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's almost to the level of comfortable lead. Almost to the level of it, where you're in a position where you've got a 200-ish meters to go. You'd probably be able to withstand, with the rhythm that you have right now, any move that the crews behind you could put on.
Yeah, Forest Hill Eastern doing a really nice job here of pressing away off of Traverse City West, working to try to see if they can at least close the gap and lay down a little bit of a harder second place time, trying to see if they can make it as hard as possible for the second semi here to take a medal away from them. Again, this great shot here of all the infrastructure, all the team tents at the finish line. Pretty amazing to think that by Monday, none of this will be here. Yeah. All the docks will be gone. The grandstands may still be here waiting for them to be picked up, but all of this infrastructure is just temporary, and a lot of effort and work put into it, as Skyline sees a lot of their work coming down the course paying off.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, great sculling this weekend from Skyline.
Forest Hills Eastern crossing the line there, followed by what looks like the Traverse City West crew.
Yep.
And then that fourth place position between Traverse City Central and Spring Lake, although Spring Lake looks like they've nudged up enough that they may be able to stay in front of Traverse City Central here for that fourth place position.
Boy, talk about a disproportionate amount of rowing machine time in your season. I can only imagine how much Traverse City spends on the ergs.
Yeah, talking with their coach Chris Bott earlier today, unfortunately due to some repair issues and needs, but they have did not really have the opportunity to get on the water between Midwest and states this weekend with some windy conditions up north. So happy to come down south and see a little bit of warmer weather today despite the storms. But those athletes doing a great job there of dealing with the adversity they were dealt throughout the week and coming down and laying down a hard course.
Yeah, that's really a tough part about this sport is that you're so dependent on conditions, and there are some programs that have had momentous shifts in either wind or water levels throughout the nation that can make a body of water all but unrowable. And so sometimes you see these climate change refugees that have to seek out new waters and new places to practice. That's particularly abundant out west, I've been finding, especially as reservoir levels go down. There's some legendary crews that row on reservoirs that are simply no longer there anymore, especially in Northern California and Oregon. Quite a substantial shift towards lakes and rivers. And as we move up to the front of the race course, again, we are in the second semifinal of the women's varsity double. In lane 1 at the top right of your picture, Mercy. Lane 2, Northview. Lane 3, Green Hills. Lane 4, Northville. And lane 5, Grand Haven. And I have to be honest, I didn't even know that Mercy High School had a rowing team. This is exceptional.
Well, it's one of the cool things that we got going around here right now. Between both Kit Bennett with Skyline and Washington Rowing Center, and then Nick Bix over here with the Kensington Rowing Center, right? Like, they've been able to open up some doors for athletes locally who maybe they've got the interest, but there aren't any other kids at school yet that have the interest, because believe it or not, folks, rowing coaches don't grow on trees around here. This isn't Boston, this isn't Philly, where everyone has a rowing memory per se, and it's part of the fabric of the community. Like, it's a bit more niche here.
Yeah.
And certainly from just an infrastructure standpoint and cost standpoint, most high schools have fields. Very few high schools have boathouses and racks full of rowing shells. So the simple fact that a lot of these athletes, especially as we get into the small boats, the singles, doubles, pairs, have an opportunity to get into the sport of rowing. Maybe their own school doesn't sponsor rowing, but another local club can sort of take them on and give them an opportunity to race scholastically is pretty amazing. And certainly as you look across Scholastic rowing, a lot of instances of this. And helping to grow the sport here as we are over the top of the Northville crew here in lane 4, who have pushed out to a lead on the field.
Very strong lead.
Again, guys, like, if you were in the heat before, if you were in the semi before, keep an eye.
Yeah.
Because that is a serious lead that Northville has right now. And if we're looking at times, I think we are going to need to look at Northville and what they're putting down right now.
So Skyline's win in that last semi was a 6:08.75. So these ladies from Northville are hoping to best that time. We'll see what they can do. But yeah, they're just putting it all out there, because when you don't have those top crews next to you, you just have to lay it all on the line and just hope that the pain is worth it.
And certainly as they push through the 750, again, looking at about just over a 3-minute split there, doing a good job of pressing out. But what can they do in the second half here to try to put a little bit more distance, similar to Skyline in the first semi, who had pushed out to a little bit of a comfortable lead? What's going to happen behind them is still of their concern. They've got to stay on the seats, keep control of the oars, but just looking really relaxed here in this Northville crew. This great shot from behind as they press and swing together, staying on the front edge of the hips, pressing those legs home, and looking to extend out on the field of Mercy, Northview, Green Hills, and Grand Haven.
Getting a little bit close to these buoys, though, on their
careful,
starboard
right?
side. That's
Careful,
a little
right?
bit scary.
Nobody wants that.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
Dodged a bullet there.
Yeah, as Chris mentioned earlier, if you hook your blade onto the kind of underside of that buoy, it can actually get tangled. And I've seen some boats just outright flip really quickly from a buoy strike like that.
Yeah, and one note as we're talking about buoys, just from an infrastructure standpoint, people always ask, how do you get the buoys so straight? Do you just drive really fast and drop them out the side of the boat? Each of those buoys has a leader that goes down to a steel cable that runs from the start to the finish. So each of these lines we see running along is a 1,500 meter length of steel cable, and then there are ferrules that each buoy clips in between to sort of keep this spacing and provide this great race course for the athletes to come down.
It looks like Northville's still in that commanding lead, probably about 50 meters or so, and behind them, I'm going to guess that second is Northview with Green Hills in third. And as they approach these we're into the red buoys now. The time to beat for gold will be a 6:08.75, and to make it into the medals, they're going to have to dethrone Traverse City West, who came in with a 6:27. So we'll see if they can get into the medals, but I'm sure they're aiming for gold, as all of these crews are.
Pretty serious leg drive there.
Yeah.
Those legs are getting down fast.
Yeah. Very strong off the foot plate with this crew. And one of the first things that these rowers, and indeed any rower, should be doing is getting their heels down and driving through the entirety of the foot. It's pretty common for a novice crew or a novice oarsman to try to drive through the toes. It's kind of what we naturally think of when we're sprinting, when we run. But you can see that this boat is doing a very effective job of displacing the water by getting their entire foot down on the plate as quickly as possible and just accelerating through and levering those oars. Some nice suspension here.
Oof.
Wow. Well, I don't think that they were able to get gold, but I think that they definitely secured...
Yeah.
I'm going to say that was a silver medal time,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we'll wait for the
Unofficial.
official times. Yeah, unofficial. Please,
Off the record.
always doubt your commentators. Always doubt them. Hefty amount of skepticism. Yeah, I think they finished with a 6:11, which should put them in a silver medal spot,
Yeah.
right above Forest Hills East, who would be bumped down to bronze from that prior semi. But Skyline still maintaining that gold. Congratulations to that Skyline varsity women's double, unofficial, from your professional guessers out here in the commentators van.
Yeah, if there's one thing that's guaranteed, it's that an announcer's going to get something wrong throughout the course of today. But doing our best here with some great drone footage of being able to capture and bring things to you. And as we were talking a little bit about earlier about the team at Mixer, these guys were down at Ford Lake earlier today, bringing coverage of the MAC Conference Championship on Ford Lake. Jumped on 23, enjoyed all the traffic, and got here in time to bring us these great drone shots as we head back up to the start for the women's 2V/junior double semi number 1. Lane 1, we've got Skyline. Lane 2, Traverse City Central. Lane 3, Carlson. Lane 4, Cranbrook. Lane 5, Orchard Lake St. Mary. Lane 6, Traverse City West. And Lane 7, Northville. And boy, Northville has pushed out in Lane 7.
We're just going to be out here by ourselves, huh?
Yeah, certainly as their varsity double showed in the previous race. Regardless of the lane, they're going to be pushing. That Northville crew in here on lane 7, sitting up open water over lanes 1, 2, and 3, Skyline, Traverse City Central, and Carlson, who are all overlapped with Cranbrook right on their tail in lane 4. But this Northville double just doing what they do best, apparently, as a program, just pressing and really leveraging on it here.
Again, like it's for all we know, right? Like lanes 1, 2, and 3 are really sort of looking each other dead in the eye. All the while, Northville's just sneaking out inch by inch here through the second 500.
Yeah, Northville might not even be on their radar because in the distance is one thing, but when you've got a lead like that, I can't imagine that those 3 boats to the top of the picture can even fathom what's going on.
Yeah, and certainly in a cox boat where you would at least, the coxswain would have the opportunity to do the quick count of the lanes of, am I getting everybody? Am I missing somebody? This lane 7 jump out by Northville could be catching some crews over in 1, 2, and 3 a little bit off guard, who are rowing well and clean and pushing and really feeling like they're throwing down a heck of a race. But little do they know, Northville is sitting up out in lane 7. Traverse City Central doing a good job of pushing away from Skyline here in lane 2. Looking to distance themselves a little bit here as we go into the second half of this middle 500.
I want to give a quick shout out to the Mercy rowers from the prior race that we saw. I just sent a text to my sister who's actually watching this right now, and she is a Mercy alumna? I think that's right.
Yes,
and
sir.
all right, my English teacher will hopefully not yell at me from days beyond. But yeah, my sister was really excited to see that Mercy has picked up a rowing team and is starting to make good on that. So shout out to Mercy.
Starting to get into some chop now, kids.
Yeah,
I think the
yeah.
wind is starting to pick up just a bit more, maybe a couple more miles an hour here. So as we've mentioned previously in the broadcast, it is critical that you stay clean as you look to build speed through the final 100, 200, 300 meters of the race, right? Like, you just don't want things that are going to mitigate your speed, right? Blades slapping on the water, the releases starting to get kind of throwy with the water, like a lot of splash, a lot of white water. You want to see that clear, dark puddle at the finish.
And it looks like Northville might be in a little bit of danger from the far end of the field. I'm not sure if that was Skyline or Traverse City Central, but it looks like we've got somebody that's broken away from the pack and is starting to approach.
Yeah, I think that's the
Northville.
Traverse City Central
Skyline?
crew who's been
Okay.
pushing pretty hard.
No,
Skyline out in
Traverse
lane
City
1.
Central.
Traverse City
Yeah,
Central
TC
moving with some
Central.
really good rhythm.
Yeah.
Does appear like maybe over in lane 2 things just a little bit calmer than over in lane 7 right now.
Man, we
for
missed
that
that.
Northville crew.
Yeah.
But Traverse City Central doing a really good job of pressing and swinging together here. And again, that contact issue of lane 2 to lane 7. There's a lot of course between those lanes.
Here they
And
come. Here comes TC. They're building it up, winding it up.
Traverse City moving really well. Northville still sitting up on them, but again, that parallax across the course a little bit difficult to judge from our angle. But Traverse City Central rowing cleanly. Both crews working to come into the top of the beach.
And it is worth noting that a lot of courses do have a slight advantage on a certain lane. I think almost every course that I've ever seen will have a lane or two that's maybe more sheltered, maybe a little bit more protected, maybe the wind hits it different. But these Northville rowers are starting to get scrappy as they approach the finish line. They really, really want that W, but TC Central just can't do enough to get into contact. And it
Jeez.
looks like Northville did have a second
Yeah.
or two lead,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
we'll
yeah.
see what the total times end up being.
If it was 1,600 meters, TC had him.
Certainly a well-fought race there, both out of Traverse City Central and...
And you just see the exhaustion on the face of the stroke seat right now. Sometimes it's hard to even breathe, let alone like contemplate your own mortality at the end of these races.
Yeah, well fought, and we'll have 6 more crews coming down in the second semi to see if they can match that Traverse City Central and Northville effort there to lay down a pretty hard time for the first semi, similar to the varsity women's double where Skyline threw down hard with Forest Hills Eastern in the first semi. Northville managing to row pretty commandingly in that second semi and squeak into the silver medal position for the varsity double.
I love those shots at the end of the race that we've been getting today, though. You can really see the drama, the exhaustion, the jubilation. Just, it's wonderful. All right, now we are back up for the second semi of the women's 2V double race. And over there on the right side of your screen, we have Pioneer, Lane 2, Forest Hill Central, Lane 3, Huron, Lane 4, Saline, Lane 5, Forest Hills Northern, and Lane 6 to the bottom of your screen is Forest Hills East, who is in the lead right now. Punchy display from the far end of the field there. In second, it looks like we've got Forest Hills Central, so this might be a Forest Hills race. Forest Hills Northern there in Lane 5, second from the bottom. Looks like they're in third, but not by much.
Yeah, certainly the second through fifth position here, Forest Hills Northern, Saline, Huron, and Forest Hills Central all still have overlap here. Forest Hills Eastern establishing just a little bit more of aggressive cadence, seeing if they can distance themselves from the field, but overlap across the next 4 crews, and then back just a little bit here to Pioneer in Lane 1. Looking to see what they can do to throw down relative to the times we saw in Semi 1. Those times coming in right now here. Northville throwing down a 6:14. Traverse City Central a 6:16, and then Carlson in third in that first semi at a 6:37. So some pretty quick times there from that first semi. Compare that back to the varsity double of speed there. So this Forest Hills Eastern crew looking to see what they can do to establish that push here.
And I think Huron has established a pretty clear second place. Or no, is that Saline that we're looking at in second place with the yellow blades right now?
I believe you are correct. I believe
Yeah.
we've got Saline here in lane 4.
Awesome.
Established just a little bit of a lead over the Huron crew to their right, who is sitting up just a little bit on Forest Hills Central. But as this drone shot pans back, we can see the whole field. Forest Hills Eastern, again, just continue to press out in front.
And the time to beat right now is a 6:14 that was established in the semi before this. Northville with a 6:14. Really, really nice time out of that Northville crew, who looked great doing it. So we'll see if any of these boats can come close. The bronze medal position right now is held by Carlson, who maintained a 6:37.9. So this boat will have to beat that to get into the medals. Or a 6:14 to claim the victory here. And again, for those of you that missed it, due to the lightning storms that we had this morning, we kind of truncated the race schedule today, and we are only rowing the semifinals and heats, and then taking the times from both of those and basically aggregating to see who has the fastest time overall to award the medals. So we're not having any official finals today, except for the boats that have 6 to 8 entries, in which case it would just be a straight final. But more often than not today, we are going to be comparing the times from two or three semifinals to figure out who is going to be our gold, silver, and bronze medalists for each event.
Yeah, and certainly not the way that any of these coaches or athletes wanted the state championship to go. Certainly not the LOC either, but in the vein of making the most out of having everyone here and trying to roll with the punches. Plan B developed, and we've got some great weather here as the sun comes out. Conditions are staying flat and fair, and athletes are getting a chance to throw down for a state championship, which for many of these athletes is a great racing opportunity. And a lot of these programs put a lot of effort towards how they can stack up at the regatta, both individually from different boat classes, also as well as it relates to the various team points trophy, the overall, the sculling, and the sweep points trophies. So great shot here of that Forest Hills Eastern crew. Still staying out in front. Celine has edged up a little bit more here on Huron. Yeah. And so great to see that Celine crew pressing up. Another big body of water crew rowing out on Ford Lake. Used to some rough conditions, but doing a great job here of just staying relaxed and pressing as we race the clock.
I didn't know that they row on Ford Lake. That's where the University of Michigan women's program rows, I believe.
They are one lake further over. They're actually over on Belleville.
Oh, they're on Belleville. Okay.
Yeah, other side of the dam, but they are dam buddies.
Okay.
But Celine sharing a boathouse with Eastern Michigan University, who hosted the MAC championship today on Ford Lake.
That's right. This is a really exciting weekend in our sport. We've got a number of collegiate races happening, some of which got streamed yesterday, so I was fairly distracted at work watching the Accra events.
Yeah, there's a lot of live streams happening across the country today. Certainly feel fortunate to be sitting here commentating, but a lot of phenomenal footage, a lot of great rowing. Forest Hills Eastern continuing to look to just push out, seeing what they can do to match up to that 6:14 time.
And to Russ's point earlier about pivoting to Plan B, that really speaks to the organizational adaptability of the Michigan State Scholastic Rowing Association. You're always going to want to have a contingency plan, and then even a contingency plan for that contingency plan, and maybe even a contingency backup plan in case all else fails. So there's Plan A, which we all like, but Plan B, Plan C, Plan D. Plan D.0.
I believe for Midwest last week there were 4 contingency plans.
That's what you got to do. Yeah. That to me speaks wonders about just the future of our sport here in the great state of Michigan and the Midwest.
There's a lot of people who put a lot of thought, a lot of time into this, right? Like this is not just a, hey, let's show up and let it rip.
Yeah. It takes so much support, so much coordination. The logistics alone of getting everything that you see on the beach right there in place. Forest Hills East looks like they are about to come across with that W here, although not in a time that's going to get them in the gold medal contention. I don't think that they were able to medal, but they're happy with their performance. They beat the folks on the field, and at the end of the day, that's all that matters. You just row your race, do the best you can. I think Celine just crossing the line to pick up second place in this semi, but I believe that those times from the first semi in this event are going to hold for the first, second, and third medalist positions.
Yeah, certainly Carlson holding on to that sort of gatekeeper spot in the bronze medal position at a 6:37. I think they were able to hold on to that bronze medal. Northville being your event winners, Traverse City Central taking the silver in that event. But again, one of the things that you work on teaching your athletes again is just the resilience of situationality. You can't control certain things, and while we could seed into a final, that's just not going to happen today. So these athletes doing a great job of laying down and pressing through the course.
And it's such a privilege to bring you guys these stories, not just about the programs, the athletes, but the volunteers, the coordinators, the SRAA board. Shout out to them. That's all volunteers. There's so much volunteerism that goes into making this sport a success for every single event, every single season. I'm pretty fond of quoting George Pocock in case any of you haven't noticed, but
hadn't picked up. I think we're at five quotes maybe.
Perhaps.
We'll see between Midwest and Today.
I'm going to add number 6. George Pocock was convinced that rowing would die out if altruism was not a fundamental part of our sport. Altruism is kind of the unspoken value, I think, of rowing. We just want to support each other, support good racing, and just see where the chips fall. And so, St. George Pocock quote number 6 for me.
You could quote a worse person, but certainly none of this stuff happens by accident. Both the access to the course, the development of the course here at Kensington Metro Park on Kent Lake, the Kathryn Bennett race course, has been a multi-year investment at this point. And as Chasen was mentioning earlier, the Michigan State Scholastic Rowing Association is a association that is governed by the coaches, governed by people within the state who want to see the sport grow. And certainly as he and myself and Chris age ourselves with how many programs there were when maybe we started rowing, it's great to see the growth and to see the opportunity out there for the different student athletes.
I'm going to throw an obligatory, get off my lawn! All right, and we are lining up right now with the women's coxed freshman 4. Exciting stuff. Freshman rowers typically haven't touched oars before this year, so most of these athletes have probably started rowing in the fall, in August and September. Although there might be some that have middle school experience, particularly crews out of Northville, and I'm going to say Ann Arbor has more access to middle school programs than anybody else in this region, but it does seem like middle school rowing is on the up and up, which is awesome, because the sooner you can get oars in the hands, the more experience you're going to get.
Yeah, certainly something that 15 years ago did not exist to the level it does. Again, talking with a couple coaches, Chasen talking a little bit about middle school opportunities in the Northville and Ann Arbor communities, talking with Chris Bott up at Traverse City. Additionally, some middle school opportunities up there. Just opportunities for athletes to be fed into programs similar to other sports that we see throughout the Midwest, swimming, traditional sports, basketball, baseball, soccer, where you're not putting a 5-year-old in a rowing shell. But the opportunity for these kids to get a chance to pick up an oar before high school, and again, just a categorical definition here. We've seen the novice events earlier, the freshman event. All of these athletes are all 9th graders. They're all in their first year of high school, whereas a novice can be someone that is just their first year of rowing. So a novice could be a sophomore or a junior technically, but this freshman event here is just 9th graders.
And important to note right now, this is pretty tricky for a novice coxswain to be backing a boat in when you are in the other side of the boat. We see our Carlson coxswain right here taking a cheeky look out the port side of the boat to make sure that they're headed in the right direction and probably establishing distance and proximity from that starting boat. We see the boats to the right and the left of them making tiny adjustments, trying to get their points exactly where they want to be, straight down that course. And this really is a challenging, delicate battle. Luckily, they've got very pristine conditions. It's nice and protected from the wind, so they're not going to have too much drift to one side or the other. But this is a pretty stressful part of the race, especially for the coxswains who are trying to make sure that their crews are set up and established and pointed in exactly the right direction at exactly the right angle to make the most of the start of their race here. And as we line up, in the top right of your picture, that is Lane 1, Pioneer, ready to do the business. Lane 2, Orchard Lake St. Mary's. Lane 3, Northville. Lane 4, Forest Hill Central. Lane 5, Carlson. Lane 6, East Grand Rapids. And Lane 7 at the bottom left of your picture is Riverview, with probably my favorite blades in the region. The Jolly Roger, just can't go wrong with those pirate throwbacks.
Yeah, certainly using their blades to show a little bit of their spirit and their uniqueness. Blades are always sort of the blades of rowing, getting a chance to see how every program goes, whether it's a more traditional design or as technology's gotten better and decals are allowing you to pretty much put anything on an oar. These crews are off the line. Some great parity here as they come off.
Yeah, great drone shot. We can see them all lined up. I think Riverview might have a deck lead on the rest of the field right now, but it's still early days, so anybody's race. I'm seeing a little bit of speed emerge from St. Mary's in lane 2, but let's not count out right next to them Pioneer going with them. Pioneer just found a great flow, and their rhythm seems to be carrying them through into the lead. Right now it looks like Pioneer in the lead. I'm going to say Riverview in lane 7, closest to this picture, has a narrow second over St. Mary's. I don't know though. St. Mary's and Riverview are going stroke for that second medal position.
Yeah, certainly looking across the course from lane 2 out to lane 7, that Orchard Lake to Riverview. They are trading strokes here. Pioneer looking to see if they can push up a little bit on Orchard Lake St. Mary. We've got Northville in 3, who's sitting just in that 4 position, then back to EGR in lane 6. And then Carlson and Forest Hill Central are going stroke for stroke here in the middle of the course.
Yeah, we're getting a real battle with Carlson right now in Forest Hill Central. Looks like Carlson just eking out a lead there to edge out Forest Hill Central. Going up to the front of the pack, though, it looks like Pioneer has established about a deck lead, maybe half a deck. I'm going to say that St. Mary's is just barely out ahead of Riverview, but not by much at all. It's still anyone's race, I'd say, for the first medal position, because, wow, St. Mary's is not letting Pioneer have their own way. There's a real battle, I think, developing for first and second. Riverview, closest to us, seems to have dropped off just a little bit, finding their flow, trying to find their rhythm. It looks like St. Mary's is trying to knock on the door of Pioneer. And it looks like Northville just stopped in the water. I'm not sure if that was a crab. Russ, did you see what happened there?
It looks like the 2-seat might have lost control of that oar around the release, but they've got the oar back, and they're getting back onto the course here, looking to see if they can reestablish that rhythm. Still looking here, lanes 1 Pioneer, lanes 2 Orchard Lake, and then to lane 7 for Riverview. Certainly impressed here with the Riverview showing as they look to establish themselves out in lane 7. You know, when you're contending across the courses we've talked about all day, it's a real challenge to stay in contact, but Riverview really doing a good job here of trying to be the aggressor, stay with Pioneer and Orchard Lake St. Mary from across the course, and see if maybe they can throw down and surprise. And again, it's as I look up at the event title here, have to surprise myself and remind myself that this is the Women's Freshman 4. So these athletes are 9 months in at most to rowing, unless they've got that middle school background. But Pioneer doing a good job of pressing here through the 750. Orchard Lake definitely looking a little bit more relaxed here. Maybe a little bit lower on the cadence, but these two crews going stroke for stroke here in their Hudsons.
And St. Mary's doing a great job. I've seen this crew on the water. I've been helping out a little bit at Orchard Lake. And shout out to Coach Luke and Coach Michael, who work with this Orchard Lake St. Mary's team. They've come a long way since the fall. Really exciting, because as we talked about last weekend at Midwest, the amount of improvement that can happen at the novice level and the freshman level, the bodies are developing very quickly. The skills are taken to heart, and usually you see that the aha moments coming so fast, and it's just so exciting as a novice coach to be able to impart that wisdom and see a quick turnaround on your investment. And so St. Mary's has about a deck overlap with Pioneer right now. It doesn't look like Riverview has contact anymore. It looks like there's open water between them and St. Mary's, and then behind them looks like a 2-boat race for 4th. I'm seeing East Grand Rapids duking it out with Carlson. Carlson has broken away from Northville, who unfortunately caught that digger and had to come to a stop with Forest Hill Central to the side of them. So they're kind of trying to get back into the race right now. We'll see what they can do. But Orchard Lake St. Mary's is holding that deck overlap, maybe a little bit of an open water lead for Pioneer. Pioneer is just sending it. Really good strong strokes from Pioneer. Not the cleanest rowing that we're going to see all day in the freshman class, and that's to be expected, but by and large, some very impressive displays for these crews who are, I think, almost all of them in their first year of rowing.
Yeah, certainly as they press out here, Pioneer and Orchard Lake looking to lay down as quick of a time as they can here, Riverview being part of that as well. As we look to the second semi, we've got a 6-boat race. While a lot of these first semis have been a little bit quicker than the second semis we've seen across the boat classes, certainly you still have to lay it down, and it's very easy to maybe get complacent if you're a Pioneer, Orchard Lake, or Riverview crew right now, and you've pushed up and you feel comfortable of, hey, we've got things on lock, but we've got to remember that we're, again, comparing times between the semis here. So Pioneer doing a really nice job of just staying up long. They've been able to open up a little bit of water on Orchard Lake St. Mary. Orchard Lake St. Mary, probably just a little bit of open water on Riverview, but those are your 1, 2, 3. And then as I try to not completely butcher this, going back to Carlson as your 4th place crew, then a toss-up between EGR and Northville, and then back to Forest Hill Central. This great drone shot as we come in on Pioneer coming into the red buoys, looking to extend and see if they can press away from Orchard Lake.
All right, Pioneer bringing it up for their final sprint as they hit the beach. Such a fun, pivotal moment in the race. You know that the end is near. Your body is just electrified with lactic acid, oxygen deprivation. This is one of the fastest sports that breaches your anaerobic threshold. Literally within a few strokes, most of these crews have breached their anaerobic threshold, which means that your muscles have no more oxygen in the body. Pioneer walking away with that win, and it looked to be about a 6:17. Orchard Lake St. Mary's a few seconds behind them, and see where the rest of the field finishes. Nice job and great rowing to Pioneer and Orchard Lake St. Mary's.
And again, just that reminder, this is the women's freshman 4 semi number 1 at the Michigan State Championship. Certainly for some of these programs with these Frosh and novice events, getting a great look at what their futures are going to look like and the potential for growth that these teams have.
Great job to all these crews finishing up their races strong. Thank you to all the parents and volunteers that are out here supporting their teams too. This is such a wonderful sport to see just the big-heartedness for all of the families, all of the coaches. There's a lot of heart that goes into making these races happen. A lot of early wake-up calls for a lot of parents that I'm sure would rather not wake up at 4:30 in the morning. But that's what we have to do to ensure that our kids have the best high school rowing experience possible. And indeed, the best high school experience possible for some of them. This is a critical part of their education and being able to call themselves a fulfilled and gratified high schooler. And for some crews, today will be the last race of their season, potentially the last race of their high school career. So it can be a pretty emotional day for a lot of people.
Yeah, we're looking here at the second semi of the women's freshman 4 as the crews look to get locked in. Lane 1 will have Rockford. Lane 2, Trenton. The Lane 3 crew, Cranbrook, apparently was a scratch. Lane 4, Lowell. Lane 5, Northview. Lane 6, Huron. And Lane 7, Wyandotte.
I think that's the second scratch I've seen from Cranbrook today. I'm curious what's going on in that camp right now.
Perhaps some shifts in lineups just due to athlete availability, compression of schedule.
Yeah.
Hopefully everyone is okay and healthy. Sometimes things happen.
Totally. And could just be equipment availability too. Sometimes you just don't have the shells to make it work when a schedule reshuffle happens. Sending good thoughts out to the Cranbrook crew and all the coaches and athletes over there. And as we get a nice look, this is a fun angle from our drone crew. This is really exciting. You can kind of see down the course. You can see the tiny adjustments that the crews are trying to make to get themselves just right dead center, right down the barrel. As these crews are about to emerge like shooting bullets out of a gun when they hear that starter give the call.
And a great opportunity to see just the quality of the course here. Those buoy lines dead straight. Looking
beautiful.
Across side to side of the course, all those buoys lined up. Takes a lot of time, energy, and effort. And certainly a big shout out to Lindsay Davis-Brady and Wes Harrington, who sort of spearhead managing and installing and extolling the course here with a huge host of volunteers, both parents and athletes, who shortly after this regatta ends today will be begin the process of tearing this all out. And we've got to start here. A little bit of a wild line here out of Lowell in lane 4.
Yikes.
I'm guessing this will probably be called back. We'll see what the officials do. But
wow, just barely evaded I think a pretty significant crash there.
Yeah, they were able to avoid the Northview crew there.
Wow.
We'll see what the officials do here. They may allow this race to continue just based on the fact that they didn't impede anyone else's ability but their own, and they're working to get back in their lane and get to it.
It looked like half that Lowell crew started. It almost looked like the entire starboard side, the entire port side started rowing before the rest of the crew did. So they just got sideways real quick.
Yeah, certainly a learning opportunity there. But Huron looks like they've pushed out in lane 6. Again, we've seen some really phenomenal rowing out of the Huron program as those athletes press out an advantage over Northview in lane 5. Great shot here as we chase down the Lowell crew, looking to get back up with the race.
Oh, it looks like Lowell is not having the easiest time with their steering, though. They have merged into Northview's, I'm not sure whose lane they're in, but I'm not sure if they're in their own lane per se. But again, Huron, when last we saw them, were in that lead. Yep, Huron walking away with it. Goodness, they've already got about half a boat open. And I'm not sure exactly who's in second. It looks like it could be Wyandotte or Northview.
Yeah, it looks like Wyandotte and Northview trading back and forth here. Again, looking to just establish themselves early, trying to see what they can throw down relative to the first semi. Pioneer won that first semi in a 6:17.5 to Orchard Lake St. Mary at a 6:21, and then Riverview at a 6:33. So that's sort of our benchmark here as we look to see what these athletes can throw down here. Huron doing a really great job of asserting themselves through this opening 500 meters. They come through the 500 meter mark here. This great shot.
And again, for those of you that missed it, the seeds for today, as well as the semi-final placement, was determined by last weekend's performances at Midwest. And so based on the times that were thrown out last weekend at Midwest Championships, that is what we've gone with the seeding today. And so sometimes we are going to see some crews that maybe weren't there last weekend, or maybe they had an off weekend, competing for medals very aggressively in their second semifinal, even though for most of these semis, the first semifinal is typically going to have the faster crews, and those crews are occupied usually by lanes 1 through 3. But right now it looks like we're riding along with Wyandotte. Wyandotte doing a great job keeping that second medal position, but wow, for third in this race, I am not seeing anything in it. Looks like a pretty tight pack over there in lanes 1 and 2. Rockford and Trenton duking it out with Northview in those red uniforms down to the left of your picture.
Yeah, as Huron out of shot pushes through the 750, this Wyandotte crew doing what they can to distance themselves from what is going to be a little bit of a dogfight here in third through fifth position in the second semi. All these crews, again, looking to see how they can match up to that benchmark thrown down by Pioneer to 6:17.
Wow, but Huron really, really crushing it right now. Makes you wonder if maybe they didn't race this boat last weekend, and so they didn't have a seating time to be entered, or if they just made some incredible improvements, or maybe some big lineup shifts to put themselves in this position right now. But they're rowing really well.
Yeah, certainly. Regardless of how they got here, what they're doing from the start line to the finish line is impressive as they press out. And again, when you are in a position as an athlete and pushing out to this kind of distance, that relative sense of how well are we moving pacing-wise can be a little bit challenging, but Huron doing a great job of just pushing past their puddles, leveraging themselves through the water. Coxed doing everything that she can to motivate the crew down the course.
Yeah, and that looks incredibly motivating. That amount of lead would be motivation unto itself, but they are just kicking it into high gear. You can really see the aggression once they get those blades in the water. There's a slight hesitation when they get to full compression. It looks like that's going away a little bit as they start to bring the rate up. Looks like they might be sprinting pretty early as they approach the beach.
Yeah, certainly being aggressive. And again, with this being the freshman four, if these ladies continue to put the work in over the next 3 years, it'll be pretty interesting to see where they can continue to push and propel what is already a very fast Huron women's varsity four.
Yeah, as Chris pointed out earlier today, Huron has been on the up and up, and has been impressing all of us here in the commentators box this week and last weekend as well with their performance at Midwest. looking forward to seeing what they throw out next weekend down in Oak Ridge, Tennessee for the Scholastic Rowing National Championship. And just a beautiful shot up the course here. Again, big thank yous to our drone operators. They're doing a fantastic job keeping these drones fueled and firing on all cylinders. We haven't lost a drone yet. We did manage to lose a drone to the drink last weekend, so anybody that wants to maybe get some scuba diving practice can perhaps find a drone at the bottom of our lovely Kent Lake here.
Yeah, I do have it on at least good authority. It was not operator error. It was a malfunction with the propeller, so drone pilot was cleared of any and all wrongdoing. But great shots here.
Getting a little bit frantic in the Huron boat, which, you know, it takes experience to be able to hold that composure, especially as you enter the sprint. It gets so much harder to control your blades, control your bodies as you move that stroke rate up. And they're doing a great job of maintaining cohesion right now. You can tell, though, the bodies are tired.
Yeah,
it is
certainly.
such an exhausting
They
race.
are tired. And again,
Yeah.
as we look at that running clock, they're looking to go under 6:17 for the event win here in the freshman 4, which I believe they're going to have enough gumption to get to. We'll see where the flag drops.
Goodness
That was tight.
gracious.
And there is some elation from a coxswain that, regardless of time, knows that they just laid down an amazing race.
Oh, my heart is in my throat, though, for this crew. We'll see if they manage to eke out the win, because that was gritty. That was some gutsy rowing at the end. You could tell that they were exhausted, but, man, they held it together as best they could.
They laid down hard and may have spoiled Pioneer's day here, their boathouse rival. But a well-rowed race there by the Huron crew. As we look back to the rest of the field coming through.
Wow, they're really miles apart.
Yeah, Huron established themselves in that race, and sometimes that's what it takes here. But again, in the freshman 4, semi number 2, we've got Wyandotte out in 7 coming across the line near lane, it looks like Trenton, and then out to Northview, coming in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th behind the Huron crew. And again, that time to beat there, Pioneer 6:17 from the first semi. Second place was Orchard Lake St. Mary 6:21, and then third place was Riverview. I think we can say with some authority that Huron crew has probably knocked Riverview out of the bronze medal position. It'll just be a question of what color Pioneer and Orchard Lake get for medals in the freshman 4.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and venture a guess that I think Pioneer probably landed in the silver, and Orchard Lake St. Mary's picked up a bronze, knocking Riverview out of that bronze medal contention. But right now we are rowing along with the men's novice coxed quad. Exciting event here. Lane 1 on the left side of your picture, East Grand Rapids. Lane 2, Trenton. Lane 4, is Forest Hill Central. Lane 5, Saline. Lane 6, Northville. Lane 7, Forest Hills East. And Lane 8 is Skyline. It looks like we do not have a boat in Lane 1 right now.
Certainly a little confusing when you're used to counting 1 to 8 to start at 2. But these crews are off here. And again, as the novice quad, this is a coxed event, so they've got an extra brain in the boat that can hopefully help deal with the steering, help keep them on the straight and narrow, and allow these novice athletes to just focus on propelling the boat forward here. We're coming up with the lead pack. Skyline is pushing out, sitting up about half a boat length lead over EGR in lane 2, and then I believe that is Forest Hill Central in lane 4. But Skyline is your current leader as we come through the 500-meter mark. EGR and Forest Hill Central trading back and forth there.
And it looks like this is just a 1 semi, so this is functionally our final here for the men's novice coxed quad event. There is not another race in this event coming after this, so what we're witnessing right here will be the sum total of our medalists today. And wow, real good race developing on the far end of the course. I'm seeing EGR and Trenton just going back and forth. Oh my gosh, this is awesome. Trenton just starting to pull ahead a little bit. Is that Trenton or is that Forest Hill Central?
I believe we've got Forest Hill
Okay.
Central, yeah. So we've got EGR up at the top of our screen here, Forest Hill Central. Trenton would be in lane 3 between the two of them, and then over to Skyline. But certainly, for my brain, it's a lot easier to just call a race and not have to compare times to times, keeping track of things here. But crews are moving well. Again, just a quick note as we look back to the women's freshman 4 semis. Huron was able to eke out the win over Pioneer by less than a second. They finished Math's not my strong suit, but a good 35 seconds up on Wyandotte. So doing a phenomenal job of just pushing out, taking the gold in the women's freshman 4. Pioneer the silver at 6:17, and Orchard Lake St. Mary at 6:21.
I think that was the gutsiest finish of the day. That Huron crew looked to be in so much pain by the time they finished, but finish they did. And to claim that gold, I hope those rowers remember that race for the rest of their lives, because that was truly formidable on their part.
Yeah, certainly if this is their starting point, it'll be exciting to see the development.
Totally.
The Skyline crew, as the drone pans out, staying in the lead here, but Forest Hill Central and EGR thumping along a pretty good rhythm over in 2 and 4. Staying long and relaxed again in the men's novice 4. This is the only heat in this event, so we will be giving medals here to 1 through 3 and not having to wait for another race to determine that. But coming through the 1,000-meter mark here, Skyline is in the lead, Forest Hill Central in second, EGR in third.
And some real poise, too, from these novice athletes. I mean, this is some decent quality sculling that we're seeing, and I frankly did not row this well in my first year of sculling. Far from it, as a matter of fact. I would probably be swimming right about now. But it looks like Skyline is doing a great job of maintaining that lead. It looks like they're trying to break away as best they can from the field, but it's starting to actually compress, I think, on us. East Grand Rapids up at the top of your picture, losing a little bit of ground to Forest Hill Central, who is knocking on the door of Skyline. Skyline's doing their best to break away. It looks like maybe Skyline has found an extra gear here. There's a little bit of overlap. Skyline's starting to rev it up more and more as they approach the beach.
Yeah, they are pushing as we come into that final 250, shortening a little bit, getting a little bit into the shoulders. So hopefully they can relax things down a little bit again. That lane 8, lane 7 seems like it's been a little bit choppier as we come into this last 500, last 250. But they're doing what it takes to keep that bow ball out in front. Forest Hill Central having that bow ball just starting to come into the stern deck of the Skyline crew. Forest Hill Central pressing up just a little bit on EGR, maybe eking out just a tiny little bit of open water. And Skyline is seeing if they can unbolt the kitchen sink here and stay out in front of Forest Hill Central, who is continuing to just reel them in here. Hopefully they have enough river left, but the Skyline boys are going at it here. And it looks like they'll have enough river here, putting on a little bit of a charge here, looking to get that bow ball pushed back a little bit from Forest Hill Central. But as we come across the line with this drone shot,
wow. Skyline really revved it up. That was an aggressive stroke rate, and honestly, I think if there had been another 100 or maybe 200 meters, they might have not come out with that victory. But Skyline clearing with a gold, and in truly impressive fashion as they hauled it across the line there.
Yeah, so your state champions in the men's novice 4 with Skyline there.
And I unfortunately have to sign off and get back to my kiddo, but it has been a true pleasure and delight being here with all of you. I'll catch you next weekend if you're tuning in for Scholastic Rowing Nationals down in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. I'll be there and look forward to having some fun with y'all in a little bit warmer weather. Thank you all for tuning in. We've got a bunch more races coming for you. Thanks to Russ and Chris Zarnecki for keeping the mics alive, and hope you tune in soon. Thanks again.
Absolutely, Chase, and hopefully the little one feels better, and we'll continue to bring racing here and hopefully set up some great races for Scholastic Nationals in a week for you to call. So as we finish out there, the men's novice quad, sorry. Skyline were your winners here. We'll be headed back up to the start for our next race, the men's 2V/junior quad, which is underway. Lane 2 EGR, Lane 3 Saline, Lane 4 Orchard Lake St. Mary, Lane 5 Traverse City West, Lane 6 Skyline, Lane 7 Forest Hill Central, and Lane 8 Northville. So again, this is the men's 2V/junior quad. It is the only heat of this event. So again, medalists will be given in this event, not needing to compare times to another event. Pushing up through the middle of the course here, Skyline has established a little bit of a lead over Forest Hill Central. Just a little bit of contact there. And then looking back across the course to what I believe is Orchard Lake St. Mary. And then out to Lane 2 in EGR. A little bit cleaner rowing here as we move into the junior event off the novice quad. These athletes having a little bit more experience, a little bit more seasoned, a little bit cleaner blade work, rhythm driving a little bit better together here. But Skyline pushing out and just trying to see what they can do here to counter a little bit of a push here from Forest Hill Central, who are rowing really clean, a little bit of a higher cadence, really driving the rhythm along. Orchard Lake St. Mary in 4, doing what they can to move up with Forest Hill Central in 7 and challenge Skyline here in the men's junior quad. Through the 750 as we press to the 1K, Skyline continuing to stay out here in the lead, looking to see if they can press open a little bit of open water on Forest Hill Central. Looks like they may have a seat or two, but striking an aggressive cadence. Orchard Lake St. Mary has been using that last 250 to try to drive up with Forest Hill Central. They've got overlap on Forest Hill Central. Open water back to EGR in 4. Orchard Lake looking to see if they can press up on Forest Hill Central. Through the 1K, challenging for that silver medal position here as we push into the third 500. Skyline extending that lead, looking to assert themselves past the 1K. Ramping up this last 500. Driving well, swinging together. A little bit of bounce across the course there for Skyline into the buoys. Hopefully that bow seat or whoever is responsible for steering today can get them straightened out here, but it doesn't seem to be affecting the cadence. But Skyline driving away. Forest Hill Central in 2nd here over Orchard Lake St. Mary in 3rd. Out to EGR in lane 2 for 4th. Coming into the beach, Skyline maintaining about a 2-seat advantage over Forest Hill Central, who has gotten open water on Orchard Lake St. Mary out in 4. But Skyline coming across the line here as your unofficial winners of the men's junior quad, followed by Forest Hill Central for the silver medal and Orchard Lake St. Mary for the bronze. Just a quick update as that race finishes here, looking at the overall points trophies. We've got the overall team points with Orchard Lake St. Mary in the lead, 150 over Northville at 128.9, Skyline at 118, and Huron and Pioneer in 4th and 5th. On the women's sweep side, we've got Orchard Lake St. Mary leading over Huron 84 to 54 with Pioneer at 49. The men's sweep, we've got Orchard Lake leading 52 over Huron's 28, Northville at 27. On the women's sculling side, we've got Skyline at 60, Northville at 60.0, Skyline at 60.2, so a very narrow margin there on the women's sculling points trophy. I believe that's going to come down to the women's varsity single. Traverse City Central at 22.4 in 3rd place, and then on the men's sculling side, we've got Skyline at 28.8, Green Hills at 25.0, and EGR at 19.8. One note as we look back there to the sweep side of things, a lot of those Huron crews that we've been talking about today, propelling Huron, sitting both 2nd here on the women's and men's sweep side of the points trophies. That a very narrow margin there on the men's side, just a 1/10 of a point separating Huron from Northville. As we get back up to the racing here, we've got the men's varsity quad heat 1. Lane 1, we've got EGR. Lane 2, we've got EGR. Lane 3, Carlson. Lane 4, Saline. Lane 5, Skyline. Lane 6, Northville. And Lane 7, Green Hills. These athletes are pushing into the 1K mark at this point, so well into their race. the near boat here, the Green Hills entry, sitting up about astern, or not quite about astern, but about half a boat length lead over EGR, and then to the middle of the course, Skyline as they come through the 1K, sitting up just a little bit on Northville, but a very competitive race here. EGR looks like as they came through the 1,000, and we see this parallax a little bit better, really duking it out cross course with Green Hills in 7. So 2 and 7 right now are fighting for your lead. Skyline sitting about half a length back on both of those crews, and bow to stern on Northville. So EGR and Green Hills pushing the pace here in the men's varsity quad first heat. And again, in the men's varsity quad here, this is the only heat of this event, so we don't have to wait and have the delayed gratification of knowing who will walk away with the medals here. But good striking cadence here out of our leaders, looking to separate themselves. This top 4 again, EGR, Skyline, Northville, and Green Hills having pushed out a little bit over Carlson and Celine. That Celine crew, though, hanging tough there, seeing what they can do to push up off of Carlson in lane 3. EGR appears to have pushed out to a pretty good lead here as we come into the beach. Really cranking it up here. Very assertive on the front end. Green Hills trying to go with them. Skyline coming up on the coattails. But EGR really asserting. Hearing those calls from the beach, we can see the finish line buoys. EGR coming across the line, winning the men's varsity quad, then out to lane 7 with Green Hills, followed by Skyline in lane 5, and Northville in lane 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Final crew across the line there. Our next race up will be event 38, the women's 2B/junior 4 semi number 1. There are 2 semis in this event. Both are 7-boat races. So again, we'll go back to having to compare times from first semi to the second semi to determine medalists. But in a 14-boat event, should be some exciting racing here. Lane 1 will be Orchard Lake St. Mary, Lane 2 Northville, Lane 3 Huron, Lane 4 Rockford, Lane 5 Pioneer, Lane 6 Forest Hills Central, and Lane 7 Saline. It's this great image of a beautiful sunny Michigan day. Could not ask for nicer weather. For those of you just tuning in, we did have a weather delay this morning due to some severe weather and some thunderstorms. Thankfully, everyone is okay, but as a result, the race organizers and LOC, working with the Michigan Scholastic State Rowing Association, shifted the schedule a little bit. So we were running all these events as timed finals. So any event where there are multiple heats or semis, we'll award medals based off of the finishing times, the 3 best times, being your gold, silver, and bronze medalists, as these athletes vie for a state championship here. Making the most of a day that didn't start exactly how everyone wanted, but has turned out to be one of the nicest days we've had at the course this year. So we look here at the boats locked onto the stake boat. You can see crews sculling bows around, trying to get their points as straight and narrow as possible. In a moment, we should have the start here of the women's 2B/junior 4 semi number 1. So as we're just hanging out at the start here, the crews are all locked on, just waiting for the officials to get the racing underway. And they're off here for the women's Junior 4/2V, semi number 1. All crews are off clean. Huron and Orchard Lake St. Mary looking to assert themselves early here in lanes 1 and 3. Some good press from all crews here. Again, Orchard Lake in 1, Huron in 3, Pioneer in 5. Looking to edge those bows out just a little bit here. Going bow ball for bow ball here. Maybe a slight lead to the Pioneer and Huron crews over Orchard Lake St. Mary by just a hair. But as we come through that parallax, Huron seems like they've got maybe 2 seats over Pioneer and Orchard Lake St. Mary. Still overlap across the entire field. As we note and watch some of the racing as we come down and how this affects the overall points here, we've got a tight spread right now on the sweep side, on the women's side, of Huron over Northville by 1/10 of a point here. So if this Huron crew can do what they can to continue to put a little distance between themselves and Northville in this race, it'll only help their points total here. But Huron and Orchard Lake St. Mary pushing out a little bit here on Pioneer and Northville, who are lockstep here in 3rd. Huron having maybe a 3-seat lead over Orchard Lake St. Mary at best. But some compelling racing here as they push to the 500. Huron through the 500, Orchard Lake about 2 seats down. And now we've got open water here back to Pioneer, Rockford, and Northville, who are all overlapped and within 2 or 3 seats of each other here. But Huron and Orchard Lake using the second half of that first 500 to push out and extend a little bit. Having seen crews from both of these teams throughout the morning really do a great job of using the second 500 to springboard themselves forward. Be interested to see how this second 500 plays out between Orchard Lake and Huron in 1 and 3. And for those of you playing along at home or out on the course here, I'm now riding solo in the announcers. So if it sounds a little bland, I'm just trying not to talk for the sake of talking here and let some of this drone footage speak for itself here as we get this front shot of Orchard Lake edging out just a little bit on Huron here. Huron doing what it takes, though, to push away from Pioneer, Northville, and Rockford. Again, a little bit of a points battle happening there on the women's sweep side between Huron and Northville. So this scores some points in the positive for Huron, who are 1/10 of a point in front of Northville. But they're staying in contact here, Huron with Orchard Lake St. Mary. Orchard Lake St. Mary having about a deck of a lead over that Huron crew as they push through the 750. And sorry there, a little bit of miscall on my part as it relates to the points. Huron is got a fair bit of a cushion between them and Northville on the women's sweep side. They're sitting about 5 points up on Pioneer in 3rd right now on the women's sweep points. The tightness comes a little bit more on the men's side there, where it's just a 1/10 of a point between 2nd and 3rd, Huron and Northville, for the men's team points trophy. So as we come into the 1K here, Orchard Lake continuing to extend out and press a little bit here. Huron still staying in contact. Bow ball sitting on about the stern deck of the Orchard Lake St. Mary Women's Junior 4, and then open water back to Pioneer in 3rd. Then Northville in lane 2 and Rockford going back and forth here in that 4th place position. Again, we will have to wait for the second semi to truly determine the medalist position, but Orchard Lake and Huron both doing a solid job here of positioning themselves out in front for that gold and silver position right now. This nice upper drone shot. Orchard Lake doing a phenomenal job of moving that bow ball along. We don't see that stern really decelerating as they come up into that front end and are staying really light on their feet, re-accelerating the boat forward. They've been able to probably open up just a little bit of open water here on Huron in lane 3, and then we get a chance to see over across the course. As my brain catches up with the drone here. We've got Pioneer in lane 5 in that third place position. And then just to their inside, Rockford. But this Orchard Lake Women's Junior 4 really pressing out the advantage. Again, both these teams, Orchard Lake and Huron, having had some great showings throughout the day today. A little bit of an open water lead here for Orchard Lake as they look to throw down a fast time, throw down the gauntlet for the second semi. Staying long and relaxed, nice, clean, crisp catches, assertive leg drive. They come across the line there, setting down that benchmark for the second semi. Huron in second here as they come through the line. And then out to Pioneer in lane 5 for third. Rockford in lane 4. Currently sitting in the fourth place position. Northville in lane 2. And we've got all the crews across the line in the first semi of the women's junior / 2v4. We'll be headed back up to the start here again. Racing underway for the second semi of the women's junior 4. Lane 1, Cranbrook. Lane 2, Wyandotte. Lane 3, Carlson. Lane 4, Forest Hills Eastern. Lane 5, Forest Hills Northern. Lane 6, Skyline. Lane 7, Northview. Or Riverview, sorry. And all the crews are underway. Cranbrook and Wyandotte pushing up a little bit here with Skyline out in lane 6. Carlson right in that pack as well. But Cranbrook looking to push out a little bit of advantage here, see if they can move away from Wyandotte in lane 2 right next to them. Carlson doing a good job of coming up with that Wyandotte crew behind Cranbrook. Skyline out in 6 trying to push off of Forest Hills Northern and Riverview in 5 and 7 respectively. But Cranbrook is finding their rhythm in lane 1, seeing if they can open up a little bit of open water on Wyandotte. Skyline doing a good job of pushing in 6 here. They've been able to push back up into Cranbrook, and as we come across the parallax here, got some good overlap, and in fact Skyline probably has pushed up on Cranbrook in the second half of the first 500. They've got probably about 2 to 3 seats here, but pressing up and away. Again, that contact across the course between Cranbrook and Skyline, having to race each other across an entire race course. A little bit of a challenge here. And then as we go to 3rd, 4th, and 5th, we've got Wyandotte, Carlson, and Forest Hills Eastern. All overlapped here. Wyandotte sitting up just a little bit in 3rd. Forest Hills Eastern seeing if they can push up on Carlson. And as we have times coming in from that previous semi in the women's junior 4, that benchmark set by the Orchard Lake St. Mary crew of 557.5. Huron in second with 604. Pioneer in third with a 6:14. So these crews coming down now are looking at how they measure up relative to that. Again, looking at that rough benchmark coming through the 750, roughly about a 3-minute 750, will put these crews in a position to strike Orchard Lake and maybe jump in front of Huron and Pioneer here. But again, this Skyline crew pushing up a little bit now on Cranbrook. Cranbrook sitting that bow ball, probably on about the 3-seat, 4-seat of the Skyline crew. Coming through that 750. Again, we're in that ballpark range of just over 3 and change, 305 for Skyline here. So putting themselves in a position to maybe eke out Pioneer or Huron. But they're going to have to find something special here to press up on the time thrown down by Orchard Lake in the first semi. Drone footage doing a phenomenal job of just showing us how big the course is, racing across right now just 7 lanes, but you throw another crew to the side of Riverview. There's a lot of space for these coxswains to get lost in, and certainly as you get into the blind boats, create a little bit of trouble for yourself. But these buoys doing a good job. Coxswains doing a phenomenal job of staying between the buoys. Skyline crew keeping that advantage here, opening up a little bit of water on Cranbrook out in lane 1. Cranbrook has open water back as we come in on the Forest Hills, believe Eastern crew, though I'm probably miscalling that. Yeah, that is Forest Hills Eastern. Thank you for the logo on the side of the boat, coaches. Makes my life a little bit easier. So we've got Skyline in the lead here in this second semi. Cranbrook in lane 1 is in second. Back to Forest Hills Eastern as your third place boat right now in the second semi of the Women's Junior 4. Skyline looking again to see if they can crack that 6 mark. 6:04 would put them into a silver medal position just in front of Huron. But got a good cadence and a good press here, working on pressing and swinging together here. And for all the sculling we've seen out of Skyline today, some nice clean blade work and some good press out of their Women's Junior 4. We can see the coxswain there and the Skyline crew working the rudder, just trying to keep that crew as steady as possible. But they're pressing up into the red buoys here at this point as we come into the top end of the beach. We're pressing out and wide here. Skyline is your leader. Out to Cranbrook, who have opened up pretty considerably on Forest Hills Eastern, who is open water to the rest of the field at this point. As we look at the clock and where crews are sitting, we get to our finish line camera. That Skyline crew, again, looking, if they can go under 6:14, they can snag a bronze from Pioneer here, which I think is what we're going to be looking at. The beep, roughly about 6:12, 6:13. We'll have to wait for the official there, but it appears that Orchard Lake St. Mary has won the gold medal there in the Women's 2V/Junior 4 with a 5:57. Huron holding onto that silver in 6:04, and then it appears that Skyline may have eked out Pioneer by a second or two here, but we're going to have to wait for the official results as crews come through the line. So, and if you're playing along at home or you're around the race course, you can go ahead and take a look at all the results on Crew Timer. And as we head up to the start here, we are picking up at the 500-meter mark, the women's varsity single, semi number 1. There are 2 semis in this event. In this race, we've got lane 1, Northville, lane 2, Cranbrook, lane 3, Skyline, lane 4, Saline, lane 5, Green Hills, lane 6, Northview, lane 7, AACS, and lane 8, Brighton. So again, as we talked about earlier, a lot of single athlete entries here from schools based on rowing and working with other programs to get athletes on the water here. So for some of these scullers, while they might work with a bigger or broader group of athletes, they are here representing themselves and their school. But Skyline right now seems to be our leader here in lane 3. Then a little bit of a blanket from Northville in lane 1, Celine in 4, and the AACS entry in lane 7. Coming through the 750 here, we'll get a little bit of a better shot. We'll see how wrong I was. Was at least right about the Skyline sculler in lane 3 here. But again, as we can see here then from AACS in 7 and the Celine sculler in 4, who's asserting herself in lane 4, trying to see if she can edge up onto the stern of the Skyline sculler. Just some good drive and press. Northville out in lane 1 as well. We'll have 2 semis here, so we are going to have to wait and see from a medalist standpoint how things shake out in that second semi. But right now, the Skyline sculler staying in the lead. And as we look to the points trophy here, it does appear that the women's sculling points trophy is going to come down to the winner right now between the Skyline and Northville entries in this event. So the boat that comes out in front will help clinch the women's sculling team points for their respective team. Right now it appears that Skyline is staying out in front of that Northville sculler out in lane 1. The Northville sculler has been able to edge up from the island at the 750 to the 1K on the Celine and AACS sculler. So we could have quite a little fight here as we come into the red buoys and just 250 to go. But that self-motivation on full display here as these varsity scullers come down the course. Some of the cleaner rowing we've seen out of some of the sculling events, certainly as we've gone from the novice freshman events back up into the varsity. A little bit of ripple coming across the course. Hopefully that doesn't slow down the AACS sculler in 7 as it moves across the course. But pressing up here, Skyline pressing out the lead. The Northville sculler has pushed up on the Celine sculler. But the Celine sculler apparently, I believe, is Sarah. She's a junior. She's going to be headed in a year, apparently off to UCF. She raced the single at Midwest last weekend, and it was her first A final at Midwest. But some great development there. Looks like right now she's hanging on to that third place bronze medal position. The Skyline sculler in lane 3 continuing to keep that bow out in front of Northville in 1. Again, a little bit of more on the line here than just a medal as those two scullers are fighting it out for the respective women's team points trophies for their team. That Skyline sculler bringing everything she can here, looking to distance herself from the Northville sculler. I can finally hear some screaming from inside the announcer's tent here. But a lot of energy being spent there by the Skyline sculler, looking to clinch that team points trophy for the women's team at Skyline. On the sculling side there, Skyline sculler laying down that gauntlet. Northville in second. That Celine sculler looks like she's going to hold off the AACS sculler for that bronze medal position in the first semi. Again, we'll have to wait to see times from the second semi towards those medals, but tentatively right now we had the Skyline sculler clinching the winning spot there. We now head back up to the probably about the 250, 300 with the second semi of the women's varsity single. Lane 1, EGR. Lane 2, Traverse City Central. Lane 3, Traverse City West. Lane 4, Riverview. Lane 5, Canton. Lane 6, Mercy. Lane 7, Chelsea. And Lane 8, Lowell. A little bit of a tighter spread here as we come into the 500-meter mark. And coming through that 500, it looks like the Traverse City Central sculler and 2 has a little bit of a lead on the Riverview sculler in 4, and then we come all the way out to the Lowell sculler in lane 8. But a lot of parity in these top 6 spots right now through the 500-meter mark in this second semi. Traverse City Central sculler has kept herself up. She's sitting on the bow ball of the EGR single sculler in lane 1 and the Riverview sculler in lane 4. Just sort of tapping that bow ball along, doing what she can to push to the island in the 750. But that EGR sculler out in lane 1 is moving on her, looking to try to draw even through the 750. It's great shots, being able to see the parallax of the buoys. It looks like EGR has just started to eke in to that Traverse City Central lead. Maybe has about a seat of advantage through the 750 as the bow balls trade back and forth here. Riverview sculler in lane 4 also having that bow up there, looking to see if she can move through the Traverse City Central sculler with the EGR sculler. Single sculler from EGR is pushed up just a little bit here. Seeing a little bit of ripples and wakes coming across the course. Scullers are doing a great job of handling that little bit of adversity. Riverview sculler has drawn even at this point with the Traverse City Central sculler. Maybe a seat advantage here. EGR pressing out in lane 1 with that lead, but this sculler from Riverview in lane 4 is doing a phenomenal job of just pressing on it. As EGR, Traverse City Central, and Riverview come into the final 500 meters. EGR pressing out to a little bit of open water here over Riverview. Riverview seeing if she can move through the Traverse City Central sculler, who's hanging tough. She was the initial leader through that opening 500. Nice wide drone shot of the whole field. We had a lot of parity in that opening 500 meters, and as the fitness and technique has come into it a little bit here, it's been a little bit of an equalizer across the field, but some quality racing coming down. So again, still waiting on times from the first semi to see where that benchmark was set by the Skyline, Northville, and Saline scullers, who were 1, 2, and 3. Great over-the-shoulder shot here, the EGR sculler. We can get that same vantage she has looking over to lane 4 in Riverview. Maybe a little bit more comfort for the EGR sculler on the lead she's been able to build on the Traverse City Central sculler, but the Riverview sculler has continued to build momentum coming down the course. We're in the red buoys at this point, meaning that final 250. As they press into the beach here, I think this EGR sculler, if she can continue to hang on and just press and assert, really nice suspension and press. As she pushes out, seeing where she can again match up to that first semi. Still waiting on time, so it's going to be a figure it all out at once type of event. The Riverview sculler taking a look over her shoulder, maybe seeing how much more river does she have to reel in the EGR sculler. Thinks she's going to run out of river here as EGR comes across the line here to win the second semi. Riverview in second. Traverse City Central in third. They are in the second semi of the women's varsity single. And as we wait for times from that event, we're headed back up to the start here for the women's varsity pair. It's listed as Heat 1, but this is the only heat for this event, so this will be medals awarded based off a finish order. We won't have to wait for times. We've got Lane 1, Forest Hills Northern, Lane 3, Northview, Lane 4, Northville, Lane 5, Grand Haven, and Lane 6, Skyline. We've got a 5-boat race here. All crews are off and straight, no misadventure. Good to see out of a varsity pairs event. Good press and swing here as the athletes look to balance each other and keep the bow running straight, and at the same time try to get the bow ball moving just a little bit quicker than the boats around them. Forest Hills Northern, Grand Haven, and Skyline are sort of pressing up just a little bit on Northview and Northville. Probably about a 2-seat advantage to Forest Hills Northern over Skyline, going lanes 2 to 6. Forest Hills Northern extending out. They've lengthened out that rhythm. Pushing up a little bit. That stern sitting on the bow ball of the Skyline crew out in 6. Who's sitting on the bow ball of Grand Haven. Just some phenomenal press and swing out of Forest Hills Northern. Not sure if anyone's keeping track at home, but I'm sure I've used phenomenal too much today. But it is pretty amazing to see some of the quality of this rowing. Forest Hills Northern long and pressing. Skyline looking to relax a little bit here as they get into this rhythm. But Skyline has opened up a little bit of open water on Grand Haven and Northville in 3 and 4. Northville sitting up maybe half a length on Northview. But just such a nice, long, relaxed rhythm out of Forest Hills Northern. Doing a really great job of just showing the ability to move a boat. Pushing through that 500-meter mark. Easy for them to know that they're in that commanding position and they don't have to worry about a second race to compare times to. As long as they can keep that bow ball in front of the Skyline crew and the rest of the field, they're maintaining that competitive advantage coming down the course, just pressing and swinging, maybe tied up just a little bit in the buoy line here as they get over towards lane 1 a little bit. But they're relaxed and they're long. Pressing through the 750, Forest Hills Northern continuing to maintain and press that advantage. Skyline relaxing just a little frantic in the blades, but they've got open water back to Northville, who has a seat or two on Grand Haven. Again, this is the women's varsity pair. Despite being called a heat, this is the final for the event. There are no other races in this category, so we'll award a state championship here in the women's varsity pair at the end of this race. And as we look back to the previous race, that women's varsity single event, we had 2 semis. It appears that first semi was the faster of the 2 semis. Skyline winning that event in 6:18, Northville in second in 6:22, and the Celine Sculler in third with a 6:29. So that is your gold, silver, and bronze medalists in the women's varsity single at the Michigan State Championship. And as the drone pans across here in the women's varsity pair, Forest Hills Northern continuing to just lengthen and press away from Skyline, who is putting some distance between them and Northville. All 3 of those crews are in that last 500 meters. Coming into the top of the red buoys, Forest Hill Northern continues to press the advantage in lane 2 with the women's varsity pair. Leading that race by open water over Skyline in lane 6. And then back to Northville in lane 4. All these athletes doing a great job of staying upright and staying pressing. A little bit choppy here as we're in this last 500/250. Skyline looking to take it up, see if they can close the gap a little bit. Forest Hills Northern still comfortably up, but seeing if they can quicken their time a little bit. The drone pans back out. We can just see the master course that Forest Hills Northern, these two ladies have put down in the pair here as they come across the line, winning the state championship in the women's pair. Skyline coming through here in second for the silver medal. And then Northville coming here in third. So we've got 5 more races to come down the course here. Next up will be the men's 3V/novice 8. We've got 2 semis of that. Then we'll jump into the men's 2V/junior 8. We've got 2 semis of that. And then lastly, ending the day with the men's varsity 8, 2 additional semis. So 6 races to go here. Up at the start here for the final, or the first semi of the men's 3V/novice 8. Lane 1, we've got Northville. Lane 2, we've got Huron. Lane 3, Pioneer. Lane 4, Skyline. Lane 5, EGR. And Lane 6, Forest Hill Central. And thankfully, I'm joined back here by Chris Zarnecki from Orchard Lake St. Mary, who's going to give me a little bit of a voice break.
Sorry for leaving you high and dry there. Unfortunately, the high-paying job of being a high school rowing coach called, beckoned, and I had to go and get some crews ready for this event, the third men's varsity and/or novice 8. So, you know, this was a tricky one to try and seed this morning as we were taking a look with our plan B and trying to figure out, like, okay, you know, we got 2 very different events here, a men's third varsity 8 or a men's novice 8. So we had to do some scouring at Midwest and some juxtaposing as best we could to find the times to get the people in the right spots.
Yeah, it certainly takes a lot of effort to get everyone seated into these events and ensure that we can get the best racing possible. When you factor in the fact that we're comparing times from one to the next, you sort of want to at least create some races within races. And we're off nice and clean here. It looked like a little bit of a wobble maybe from a coxswain or 2, but they've done a great job of getting the boats running straight, ensuring there's no misadventure. But it would appear so far that we've got Pioneer in lane 3 pushing out to a little bit of an early lead here.
Yeah, this is impressive. I would suspect that there are a number of novices in Pioneer's 8. They showed speed earlier in the day in that category insofar as being able to win the Frosh 4 by very, very narrow margins. That was a tight pack there.
Yeah, certainly. They're pressing up here. Pioneer with that probably half a boat lead over Northville in lane 1. And then I would say almost a dead heat between Forest Hill Central and Skyline right now in that 3rd place position. Skyline
Northville
edging up just a little bit.
Starting to strike a bit higher. They shifted, came off the high stuff a bit higher than Pioneer did. Again, Pioneer, a couple of crews today have really just demonstrated a penchant for rowing low and long. Seems to be the MO here for the third varsity novice 8, and they're holding Northville at bay thus far, though Northville still with that attacking style trying to eat into that lead.
Yeah, Northville absolutely striking a little bit of a higher cadence right now, coming through the 500-meter mark, eating into that Pioneer just press. Pioneer still staying a little bit lower, but just maybe trying to stick to their guns, row their race, and if Northville's able to reel them in a little bit here as we come through, it almost looks like they're working to draw even.
Yeah.
Post 500, that it's just going to be a function that Northville maybe has a little bit more in the tank or is willing to spend a little bit of energy early. But right now we've got Pioneer and Northville going 1 and 2 here, duking it out bow ball for bow ball, coming through about the 650.
And at this point, I'd say that Northville still down a little bit, man. They were charging up, but it looks like, again, you take a look at the puddles, you can see maybe you caught a couple of sticky strokes here or there, just like that from Pio, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not as easy as it looks.
No,
right?
Absolutely, and certainly throwing a little bit to the name of that men's novice 3V event, where it's a little bit of a mixed bag of experience. And for many of these athletes, it'll be their second race of the day.
Pioneer putting in a push right now.
Yeah,
Pioneer's putting in a real push.
But some good press. They're really looking to assert themselves on Northville. But both those crews have open water back to Skyline, and then Huron in that 4th place position for this first semi of the men's 3V/novice 8.
Oh, it looks about level right now with Northville and Pio. I mean, maybe a slight advantage to Pio, half a deck.
Yeah, I think probably about half a deck to Pio, just asserting themselves a little bit here. That press, the cadence has definitely come up compared to where it was at the 500-meter mark. Both those crews looking to charge towards the 1K right now, but they are continuing to extend out that lead on Skyline, who has maybe picked up another seat or two over Huron in lane 2. And then we come over to Forest Hill Central in lane 6, and then EGR.
Here's where you make your money, right? Do you have the gas in the tank? Do you have the HP sauce to be able to find the gearing and get the job done in the final 400 meters, right? Like, you've obviously put yourself in a great position to be in the chips with 300 to go here, but do you have that next gear? Both of these crews are asking that question, and right now, boy, it's Northville answering with an affirmative.
Yeah, Northville has done a great job of building that momentum as they come down the course, having maybe started a little bit more conservatively, just striking their own cadence, rowing just a little bit cleaner. Pioneer looks like maybe struggling just a little bit with keeping that blade work clean around the back end as they maybe pay for a little bit of that early expenditure, but still both of those crews, Northville and Pioneer, really pressing a pretty substantial margin out on 3rd place Skyline right now. But Northville is just continuing to walk away here as we come into the top of the beach, looking to see if they can maybe press and break open water here on Pioneer.
Yeah, again, you know that, like, there's another semi out there to go, right? So, like, neither one of these crews, if they listened to their coaches before they launched, is going to be backing away here, right? Like, they know they've got to keep the foot on the gas. They know they have to keep attacking this piece all the way through the finish line, because, again, you don't know what's going to happen in the next semi.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we get this overhead shot of the Northville boys just pressing and prying themselves through, able to open up to a little bit of open water here over Pioneer in the first semi of the men's novice 3V. Pioneer still staying assertive, but we'll see where the times stack up as we look back. Coming in Skyline here in 3rd. Again, everyone's looking to race the clock today. If you have not had the joy of sitting here all day with me and my co-hosts, we had a little bit of a shift from the Plan A this morning with some weather rolling through. So race organizers and the the Michigan Scholastic Rowing Association worked to shift the race plan for the day, and we are running timed finals. So any event that has multiple heats or semis, we will take the fastest 3 times across those to award a gold, silver, and bronze, and in this case, not only a gold, but a state title.
Certainly. I mean, if we take a look at the point situation in the regatta, it seems like on the men's side, it's these next 3 events.
Yeah, I mean, as we roll into the 3Vs, the 2Vs, and then the varsity boats, we look at the sweep side for the men here. Orchard Lake St. Mary holding a pretty solid lead over Huron right now, who still has a 2/10 of a point advantage over Northville, but I'm guessing with some of the results we're seeing here in that last race that's going to change as that Northville crew did a pretty convincing job of pushing out on the field and putting some distance between them and Huron. But again, some gutsy racing across the board. Orchard Lake sitting at 52 points for the men's sweep points, Huron at 28, Northville at 27.9, Pioneer at 22.8, and then Carlson at 15 in fifth.
And these big boats are really where you earn the points, right? This is, if you're trying to win a state title, you've got to perform in the big eights. There's no other way around it, right? If you're looking to win the men's points trophy, the women's points trophy, the combined points trophy, it comes down to this: like, what does your program do in the big boats?
Yeah, and absolutely. And anything you can do to put a little bit of distance between yourself and some of your competitors, even if it's just, your 3V novice 8 eking out 1 or 2 places higher than somebody, that can come down and really help you when you get to the 2V and the 1V.
The margins are thin.
Yeah, certainly a game of inches both down the course and then mathematically here. But we've got 4 or 5 crews locked on here up at the start for the second semi, the men's 3V/novice 8. Lane 1 is Cranbrook, Lane 2 Riverview, Lane 3 Orchard Lake St. Mary, Lane 4 Wyandotte, and Lane 5 Rockford. We've got some nice points here. Hopefully Coxons will come off straight and we can see how this is going to shake out here.
Oh, here we go.
We've got to start.
Oh boy,
this could get exciting
kids.
quicker than we want to.
Steer kids.
Wyandotte and Rockford clashing oars here a little bit. Other
And
3 crews, and they've stopped the race, so we'll have to cycle these crews back around.
Yep.
And we'll get them back on the straight and narrow and see if we can come off without clashing oars for a second go.
Yep, we've seen this happen, earlier today, where, I want to say it was a Skyline pair.
Yeah, we had a little bit of misadventure in one of the blind boats.
That had that great start, right? Shot out of a cannon out of the ditch, right? They were just hot, and they were moving. And now you got to come back, right? And that could be like how St. Mary's is feeling, right? Like they had a pretty good start there. They were pulling out to like a half a length lead. And guess what, brother? Now you get to go do it again, right? So you have to lock back in on your cues. What are the things that you've been coached to do so as to get the boat up to speed as quickly as possible through those first 5-7 strokes?
Yeah, certainly just having that ability to reset, and as we've said multiple times throughout the broadcast today, these teams have done a really good job of rolling with the punches today, and just as we move to Plan B and Plan C and Plan D, this is just another wrinkle in that fabric. So Coxons backing themselves back down. I can imagine, I know as a rower, I never really wanted to back down 100 meters, but
so squirrely. The boat just doesn't want to move that way, right?
But they'll get themselves back down to the stake boats here, and Coxon there in the Wyandotte boat giving the drone a wave.
So, did you pick up on it, Russ? Was there one of those 2 crews? Did they catch a couple of air strokes?
It looked like the Rockford crew may have their port side may have just not quite gotten the leverage on that first stroke or 2 and just pulled over into Wyandotte just a little bit as Wyandotte maybe struggled on the starboard side, and they just gave each other high fives there. So all fun in racing. But as we look at the total team points here, Orchard Lake St. Mary having a slight margin over Skyline, 172 to 170. Northville currently in third at 148. Huron in fourth at 95. Pioneer in fifth with 75 points. The women's sweep points, we've got Orchard Lake St. Mary in the lead with a solid 100 points over Huron at 67.2 and Pioneer at 52. Again, Huron propelling themselves forward across a couple of the sweep races we've seen today over their boathouse rival Pioneer, but some hard-fought battles there. On the men's sweep points side, Orchard Lake sitting at 52. Mathematically, I'm guessing we haven't quite seen the update yet from that last race between Northville and Huron, but Huron's still technically in front by 1/10 of a point.
All right, here we go, boys. Let's get ourselves set back up, get this thing going. So do we have times from the previous heat? Have those
Let's see, have these
populated?
been populated? Make sure I read the right times. Don't want to do that poorly. Yes, we do have times, Chris. We've got Northville went a 5:01.
Okay.
Pioneer in second at 5:07. Skyline third at 5:20. So that is our benchmark here as we look to this event and track things down the course. So again, if you're looking about that 750 meter mark, looking for about a 230 split to the 750 if you're going to look to eclipse Northville, go under sub 5, which would be a pretty clicking crew. But again, that 520 would get you to a bronze. Crews seem like they found their way back to the stake boats here, giving a little look around, maybe shaking off a little bit of the jitters. Rockford and Wyandotte crews just thinking a little bit about that little bit of oar clash and, hey, can we get off the line clean here? Let's relax a little bit.
Yeah, and if I'm the coxswain, staying calm about all this stuff, but one of the reminders I would definitely give one of the athletes is make sure your blade is buried at the start. You do not want to see any color peeking out at the start, because what you want to have happen is you want the blade face to push water, not throw water or rip water. Like when you see those big white washes and white water and the puddles up at the start here, that's a blade that is not locked on correctly, right? You want that blade at the proper depth, so all 8 blades in this case are pushing the boat forward.
Yeah, you want that equal match and that press on both port and starboard to get that bow jumping out of the water straight and narrow. And certainly as you build that intensity in the start sequence, trying to keep that timing and cleanliness, so that way the coxswain's having to do as little as possible to keep you straight. We've got another start here. Oh, it looks like Wyandotte hopefully can narrow this out, but we've got Wyandotte and Rockford finding that buoy line again. But coxswains are doing a great job here of just keeping those vortex edges just tips away from each other.
Yep.
But they've been able to manage that here. Orchard Lake St. Mary, a nice quick start in lane 3, looking to stay out in front, establish that pace here. Cranbrook in second. Rockford as they straighten out a little bit here. Rockford and Wyandotte vying for third, but Orchard Lake St. Mary finding that aggressive cadence we've seen from all of their crews, both men's and women's, coming down the course today here in this second semi of the men's 3v novice 8.
Beginning to get to the point in the first 500 here where crews are shifting off of their high cadence and lengthening out and finding the rhythm that they want to sustain for the remainder of the piece, really. So it'll be interesting to see here, can St. Mary's hold this attacking sort of rhythm that they've put down so far, and what's going to happen behind them? Because we've got maybe a seat between Cranbrook, Wyandotte, and Rockford.
Yeah, and certainly as we think back to the previous 3v Novice 8 semi with the battle between Pioneer and Northville, Pioneer pushing that advantage through the opening 500 meters and pressing Northville having to row them back down for the win. A little bit of a different story here as we were in the second semi. Orchard Lake establishing and pushing out here. They've got probably 2 to 3 lengths of open water on Cranbrook as they come through the 500 meter mark. So it's really going to have to be an internal motivation here in this Orchard Lake boat.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, something that I'm sure all coaches were talking to their crews about when they found themselves in this situation. Like, you've got to be mature, right? Like, you have got to understand the circumstance. You are racing every single stroke. Every single stroke is a race. Are you getting the most out of the boat with the stroke that you're taking right here, right now?
Yeah, certainly. And just, again, communicating that to your athletes of just, hey, selection has shifted, that progression has changed, and so we just need to do the best we can to not be situational and put ourselves out there. And
right.
Orchard Lake doing a great job here of just asserting aggressive, a very driving front end, that cadence just really pushing out and saying, hey, we're trying to chase down that Northville 5-minute time.
Yep.
As they come through the island here, it's going to be close.
Right
around that 2:30 split. Again, that time we're looking for about a 5-minute finish time here. So as they press out and they have that advantage, they don't have the Pioneer sitting to their starboard that Northville had. Can Orchard Lake continue to extend out? How gritty do these boys want to be as they press out?
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, like this is a real easy situation to take your foot off the gas, even for a moment, because nobody at this stage of the game in the race feels good. I don't care if you're in first. I don't care if you're in last. Everybody is hurting at this stage of the game. So to have the fortitude to just be able to hang on, to see the big picture, to know like, all right, I'm coming up on the beach here. I got about a 500, 400 more to go. I have to dig in.
Yeah, certainly. As we look here at the sort of second
Great
pack that is
battle going
unfolding,
here.
great
Yeah.
battle here between Rockford and Cranbrook. Cranbrook probably sitting up about 4 or 5 seats over Rockford, and then over to Wyandotte. But that Orchard Lake St. Mary's crew has truly pushed out on the field here, and they are racing the clock, trying to chase down that 501 from Northville, seeing if they can eclipse that, or if they're going to have to settle for a silver medal just in front of Pioneer at 507.
And it does get a bit choppier. Not what we've seen in weeks past, but certainly not glass as you come into the final few hundred meters. And as we've mentioned numerous times today, you got to stay tall. You got to send through so that you're giving yourself space to tap that handle down and have the blades be above the water.
Yeah, certainly. We watched the Rockford and Wyandotte crews here battling a little bit more of that chop as they're in that third 500-meter mark. Certainly not quite the flat water we had at the opening 500, but compared to last weekend for Midwest on Saturday, I think any of these crews would sign up for this weather.
That was an absolute washing machine. That was just some of the roughest rowing conditions I think I've seen scholastically, like period, end of story, right? It was really something else.
Yeah, we look at the finish time here. It's going to be very tight. Orchard Lake St. Mary, maybe nips Northville, maybe about 2 seconds.
Maybe they're not. I don't know. We're going to have to wait for the timing crew there to give us the story. But it is close, baby.
Yeah, Orchard Lake throwing down in the second semi, the men's 3v novice 8, putting themselves in a medalist position, it would appear.
Mm-hmm.
Question is the color.
Yeah. No, I mean, they're in the conversation, right? And, I think you got to say just, tip of the cap to those kids. Tip of the cap to that coxswain for keeping everybody's head right, for keeping everybody focusing on the same thing, the same way for those 1,500 meters and really, really selling out.
Yeah, because there was no necessarily push from the rest of the field here as the rest of the field comes across with some well-rode races, but that Orchard Lake crew having to bring their own motivation. And we now jump back up to the start of the first semi of the men's 2V Junior 8. Lane 1, we've got Skyline. Lane 2, Northville. Lane 3, Forest Hill Central. Lane 4, Rockford. Lane 5, Orchard Lake St. Mary. And Lane 6, Cranbrook. And we are coming into it.
Look at this. This is shaping up to be an absolute banger, folks. Bow ball to bow ball as we've shifted into the base cadence here, maybe 300 meters in, and these guys are throwing hands. It is intensity in 10 cities, as close as it gets.
Yeah, we've got Orchard Lake probably sitting up a seat or two on the crew from Northville in lane 2, who's sitting up probably half a length on Skyline. Those are your 1, 2, and 3. And then we go back to Forest Hill Central, Rockford, and Cranbrook, who are all overlapped bow ball for bow ball there in 4th, 5th, and 6th. But our leader right now, I would say it's back and forth bow ball for bow ball between Orchard Lake and Northville as they push to the 500. Those crews looking to assert themselves over Skyline in 3rd out in lane 1.
So this next 500 is really about efficiency, right? Like you've done the work to build the speed within your hull, and you have to make sure that you are sustaining it, right? Maintaining your length, maintaining your rhythm, continuing to, breathe, the important part.
Yeah, oxygen does play a part at a certain point. But these crews both doing a great job of pushing out, staying relaxed. That Northville crew sitting maybe just a little bit longer, a little bit lower than the Orchard Lake crew in 5. They've picked up a couple seats here as they look to assert themselves. They've got the advantage of having that Skyline crew to their port hand side.
Down by the duck.
But Northville pushing the cadence here in this first semi of the men's 2V Junior 8. They've got the advantage through the 750 over Orchard Lake St. Mary, maybe picked up to about half a length, but still overlapped here Orchard Lake St. Mary. And as racing has shown anything here, island to the 500 to go is where a lot of these crews, as the water gets a little choppier, if they cannot get defensive and just stay relaxed and assert, are able to still stay with things.
Keep their length, right? Keep their length. And by length, I mean like how far back that blade is getting, right? You take a look at the hull and you want to see how far does that blade get back to the hull? How close does it get to the hull? Are these guys really pinching those blades back behind them and creating a real sense of leverage, right?
Yeah, the maintenance of that leverage point, not shorting that front end, trying to keep these guys understanding that it's all about maintaining leverage. Northville seems like they're looking to push out to another gear here as we push to the red buoys. They're looking tall and long. The Orchard Lake crew, are they going to be able to respond and go with that? Skyline pushing up a little bit in lane 1.
Yeah, certainly St. Mary's has got to find a gear here, else Skyline has got some questions for them.
Yeah, they're not going to let them just take it away. But as we just quickly look back to that men's 3V / novice 8, the question mark of where did Orchard Lake finish ended up coming up about 1.2 seconds behind that winning time from Northville of 5:01. We had Northville 5:01.2, Orchard Lake 5:02.7, Pioneer 5:07.3. So that is your gold, silver, and bronze medalists from the men's 3V novice 8. This drone footage overhead here of the first semi of the men's 2V / junior 8. Northville has pushed up on both Skyline and Orchard Lake St. Mary, who at this point, between the glare and the angle, I'm not going to even call anything because they are going stroke for stroke here.
Pretty tight.
Northville coming through the line here. We get a good shot here. Skyline is surging hard.
Oh boy,
real hard coming in. It looks like they nipped him, nipping Orchard Lake St. Mary out in lane 5 by just a little bit.
I mean, the angle suggests Skyline. I'll have to wait and see what the timing said.
Yeah, times are always a little bit more accurate than our eyes, so we'll have to wait for that. But that was, again, the first semi of this event. We'll have to wait for the second semi to determine medalists. But Northville laying it down, boys, showing maybe the brawn of their coach.
But it's not over, like we saw in the last semi, right? Like you don't know what's coming in the next heat, right?
Yeah,
like
you got to run yours.
Race the thing as hard as you can, but you don't know what's coming in the next heat.
Yeah. So as we look back up to the start here for the second semi of the men's 2V / junior 8. We've got a 5-boat race. Lane 1, Gross Eel. Lane 2, Pioneer. Lane 3, Carlson. Lane 4, Huron. And Lane 5, Forest Hills Northern. So we've got all the crews locked onto the stake boat. We've got our first stroke underway here. Coxson's doing a great job. Crews coming off the line straight. Looking to get into that high sequence, get the boat up to speed.
And do so cleanly, too, right? Like making sure we're getting out of the water effectively without any stickiness, without throwing any water, right? Again, getting a good push off the front end so that the boat can run out behind you.
Yeah, some good press here. It looks like we've got a early lead here with Forest Hills Northern in lane 5. Yeah. The crew at the bottom of our screen. Nice overhead shot. They got a bucket in 6-7. Thankfully, my 5-year-old is watching at home, present. And I'm sure driving my wife crazy with the 6-7 now. Sorry about that.
You're welcome.
But Forest Hills Northern asserting themselves here in the second semi as they come into that base cadence, looking to maybe lengthen out a little bit. Pioneer in second, Huron in third. Again, we've seen battles all day between Pioneer and Huron, that
boathouse rivalry.
Boathouse rivalry, sharing the same water on Argo Pond. But both of these crews pressing out here. Forest Hills Northern continuing to stay long and pressing. Pioneer seeing, again, as we saw earlier in the 3V, sitting a little longer, a little bit lower, just finding that striking cadence, certainly understroking Forest Hills Northern right now as they look to just find that base push. And we'll see, similar to the great race between Northville and Pioneer in the 3V.
Yeah.
If Pioneer just has the push and the base speed to stay with Forest Hills Northern and just row through them. But Forest Hills Northern is not going to make it easy.
No. I mean, again, like it's particularly with big boats, right? Like you get up and to an extent you can kind of sit on your competition because you can see any move that they are making and you can respond to it. Now, today, it's not exactly the case because you are not only racing against the boats that are next to you, but you are racing against the boats from the previous heat. So thusly, though it might be a comfortable one-length lead, something that anybody under normal circumstances would be feeling very good about, under present circumstances, no one is elated.
Yeah, and certainly as we look back to the times now being posted from the first semi of the men's 2V, it appears that Skyline was able to eke it out over Orchard Lake St. Mary for that second place position by 0.6 of a second. So it truly came down to the line. Northville throwing down a 4:36 in that first semi. So Forest Hills Northern and Pioneer definitely have a gauntlet laid down for them, just needing to throw down a minimum of 4:42 to medal here in this event. And I think that's going to be a pretty high bar.
That's a tall order.
I think the racing that happened between Northville Skyline and Orchard Lake St. Mary in that last race was propelling forward some pretty quick times. As we've got a little bit of distance between Forest Hills Northern and Pioneer across the course here, and then distance from them to third place right now as the drone pans out. We've got Huron sitting in third, Forest Hills Northern coming just into the top of that final 500-meter mark. Pioneer maybe having just a tiny little bit of overlap, and then open water back to Huron in third. This great drone shot of just the perspective of, can imagine being a coxswain driving down, and while you can use the buoys between the waves and the glare, there's a lot of opportunity for coxswains to take things awry. So the fact that they're keeping things straight and narrow and not adding meters for their crews is happy thing to see as a coach.
Yeah, and too, I think that, for the spectator here, that drone shot can really show you the effect of the wind on the water and the course, right? You can see these streaks in it. You can see these waves beginning to form as you come into the final 400 meters here. And, these boats only sit like 8 inches above the water.
Yeah, we have the bird's eye view here, and the coxswains do not have this vantage point. So their ability to pick up the buoys, keep their crews in sync, and continue to leverage that boat through. Forest Hills Northern pushing here again, that time they're looking for, if they can eke out into the bronze and nip Orchard Lake St. Mary, would be a 4:42. We're about 4:30 here. I think these crews are probably going to have to find something special in this closing little bit to take a bronze from Orchard Lake. But Forest Hills Northern doing a good job. They're rowing with some grit
here. Got to stay clean. Again, you want to see those blades being able to clear the water at the release there.
Yeah, but they're pressing home here, pushing that advantage over Pioneer. Pioneer able to maintain that press, still looking clean over Huron, who's in third place there in the second semi. But again, Forest Hills Northern, then Pioneer.
Round 5, yeah. So I don't think that they're going to threaten for a medal there, but nonetheless, got the foul ball across the line first.
Yeah, and just like that, we are right back up to the start here for the first semi of the men's varsity 8. It's a 6-boat race. Lane 1, we've got Orchard Lake St. Mary. Lane 2, Huron. Lane 3, Northville. Lane 4, Forest Hills Central. Lane 5, Grosse Ile. Lane 6, EGR. And it looks like a quick starting crew here as we jump into the varsity 8s here. These programs' top 8 athletes competing here. And I probably give a little bit of a nod here to Orchard Lake out in lane 1.
Yeah,
and then
I'd say it was pretty tight until they came off their high stuff and lengthened it out, really hitting a nice cadence here, maintaining length through the water. Again, just take a look, folks, right? See where those blades connect to the water relative to the boat. The further behind the athlete they are connecting to the water, the longer the stroke they are taking. Now, don't get me wrong, doesn't look like Huron or Northville or Forest Hill Central are going away anywhere. It's going to be an absolute fight through these next 800 meters.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, Orchard Lake doing what they can to just assert themselves, put them in a little bit of a more comfortable position, being able to see back to what's happening.
Yeah.
But Huron in 2, Northville in 3, and Forest Hills Central in 4, doing a good job to keep them honest. Probably just a little bit of lead as we come through the 500-meter mark. Orchard Lake looking
pushing
to see if
hard
they,
right now.
they're
Pushing hard, coming through, taking what looks to be a pretty substantial push from like 600 to 700 here. Russ, you think?
Yeah, they've managed to push out maybe bow to stern on Huron and Northville in your 2 and 3. Northville probably holding that second, although it's probably not going to be quite the margin I thought as we come through parallax, but certainly sitting on the bow ball, the coxswain of that Orchard Lake crew working to see if he can work his way up onto that bow ball, but pressing through. Orchard Lake in first, Northville in second, Huron narrow, maybe a deck margin over Forest Hill Central as we come through the 750.
Yeah, a real battle here still within the race, right?
But some
Forest Hill's in striking distance.
Yeah, Forest Hill's doing what they need to here from the 750 as we push to the 1K, putting a little bit of pressure here on the Huron crew, who again they're pressing well, just a little bit tight in the shoulders. Maybe need to just relax a little bit.
Easier said than done, right? Like, I mean, but that is so critical to making a boat go. Like, again, you have to think what you're doing. You got a round bottom boat in water. There's going to be some ebb and flow. There's going to be some listing. And as you get tight, all of those movements become really sharp, really angular, and the boat does not respond well to that. That is not great flow. That is not great fluidity.
Yeah.
And we're coming into the final 5 here, folks, and we're going to see who's getting it done.
Yeah, Orchard Lake pushing out here on Northville. Northville pushing up, seeing if they can break bow to stern here on Huron. Huron seemed to relax a little bit right after we mentioned their shoulders and were able to respond to the Forest Hill Central push. But so we've got Orchard Lake St. Mary as your leader right now. Northville in second, continue to push and charge as both of those crews put a little distance between themselves and Huron, looking to break open water there for Northville.
Yeah. And this is the point where you really rely on your training too, right? You know, the physical fitness that you've built, the technical prowess that you've developed, your ability to row in the final few hundred meters, not only cleanly, but with real press, right? Your cardiovascular system is so taxed right now, and the muscle memory is really what we're watching.
Yeah, and certainly the Orchard Lake St. Mary Varsity 8 is doing a great job of showing how they've led the charge in their boathouse with that 2V, 3V that we saw earlier, just pressing up on Northville. Northville unbolting it and just seeing what they can give to them. But Orchard Lake St. Mary sitting up tall, pressing out through the beach. Chris is running out to cheer on his crew here, but Orchard Lake St. Mary across the line, throwing down the win here in the first semi. Northville in second, Huron charging in third, holding off Forest Hill Central. But what a barn burner there. What a barn burner. Orchard Lake just pulling away in that closing 250 as Northville poured everything on. The Orchard Lake St. Mary coxswain giving a wave over to the Northville crew after a hard-fought battle there. And well, we will have to wait as we look to the second semi for final times. Orchard Lake and Northville throwing down hard there in the first semi of the men's varsity 8. Can Orchard Lake hold on for the state title here? Can anyone challenge in the second semi? But our final race of the day coming up here as we fly back up to the start, the second semi of the men's varsity 8. We've got a 5-boat race here. Crews are underway. Lane 1, Pioneer. Lane 2, Wyandotte. Lane 3, Cranbrook. Lane 4, Rockford. And Lane 5, Trenton. We're underway here in the opening 10-15 strokes here. Crews have gotten off cleanly. Cranbrook in lane 3 jumping out to an early lead over Pioneer and Trenton in 1 and 5. But Cranbrook looking to press the advantage here early, seeing if they can put the pressure on. They've got almost open water on Pioneer in 2. Pioneer still rowing low, as we've seen through a lot of their crews, just pressing and prying through and leveraging. But Cranbrook really
Love it.
Yeah, they're rowing aggressive here.
Right?
This is
like,
great to see.
take the race to the race. Like, no one's going to invite you to put your bow ball in front. Like, if you want something in this game, you're going to have to take it. That's the way it works.
And they are absolutely pressing away here. Looks like they've broken a little bit of open water here over Pioneer. Pioneer setting up, maybe just about starting to pull away from Trenton here to a little bit of an open water lead in that second place position. All of these crews, again, trying to chase down the times just thrown down in that first semi, which will have not popped up yet. I can guarantee are going to be blisteringly fast.
Yeah, I mean, if we had 2 Vs in 430s.
Yeah, 430s. I'm guessing 425s,
yeah,
423s, somewhere in there out of that Orchard Lake crew. But Cranbrook doing what they can here through the opening 500-meter marks to press their advantage.
I got them like 137 to the 500.
Yeah, they're cooking along here.
And not fading, right? Still holding the integrity, the stroke intact all the way through here, 600, almost 700 meters into the piece. Still looking really, really effective out of Cranbrook.
Yeah, they're pushing and doing what they can to use Pioneer as some motivation over in lane 1. But pressing up on that Pioneer bow, sitting roughly on the coxswain / stroke seat of the Cranbrook crew. But Cranbrook striking an aggressive cadence here. Pioneer, that characteristic from what we've seen, just long, low press and pry. Moving the bow ball well. A little bit cleaner than the Cranbrook crew right now as we get choppy through the 750. Does seem like maybe the near lanes have been just a little bit cleaner once we get to the 750 to finish, but certainly by the time we get to that last 500-meter marks, everyone's dealing with the same little bit of slop. Cranbrook still pressing that advantage here. But Pioneer is moving away. Pioneer is moving back into them. That bow ball from the 750 is now probably sitting on the 3 seat of the Cranbrook 8, and they look to be trying to reel them in here. They seems to be taking almost a stroke a seat here.
And the thing to be mindful of, Russ, is like they've got room to go. So as we're coming into the final 400, final 300 here, if they're looking to lift, they've got the gearing. Right?
Yeah, they've certainly kept it there.
I mean, geez, what do you think, 28 right now?
28, 29, long, low pushing as both crews come through the 500. Cranbrook's still sitting up about, 4 seats over a charging Pioneer here. Pioneer looking, taking a move here.
Taking it up here.
As they've
certainly
just
through the water.
Yeah.
Got about a deck now on Cranbrook.
Yeah, they're pushing through Cranbrook, and Cranbrook looks like they spent some energy to put themselves in a position. Now, can they hang on? Can their training sort of allow them to relax just a little bit, clean up, and not let Pioneer charge away from here? I'm sure those Pioneer boys are looking over thinking, let's go.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, the minute you break, right, like you get your bow ball in front, you've been down the whole race, and you get that bow ball in front for that moment, that is an absolute shot to the heart. Right?
Yeah.
You are just juiced, brother. You are absolutely slamming those legs down, throwing the shoulders to bow. You found a new gear. You feel no pain.
Absolutely, and it certainly invigorates the Pioneer crew here as they look to push and surge. We look back to the times here from that first semi. Orchard Lake throwing down a 431, Northville a 436, and Huron a 441. So Pioneer is going to have to find something special here, and they may be running out of river at this point.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty commanding move here from the kids from Pioneer. They've taken a length here in the final 500 and really sort of showed their mettle.
Yeah, but they'll be
to Cranbrook
racing through hard here as they sprint through the beach. Probably won't be enough to put them into medalist speed, but a well-rode race here with Pioneer and Cranbrook. Pioneer looking to pull away here as they come through the line. A little bit of open water to Cranbrook. But as our final race there runs down, the final race of the Michigan Scholastic State Championship here from Kensington Metro Park at the Kathryn Bennett Race Course. We've got our last crews coming through. A great drone shot here down on the bottom of just the event and the regatta site. Everyone hanging out on the beach as this last race comes down. But a big thank you to everyone that joined us here for racing today. Well, it wasn't exactly everything that was planned. A lot of crews had chances to race for a state championship today, earn some hardware, earn some medals. Some crews finishing their season out today. Others looking to go on to Scholastic Nationals and Youth Nationals over the coming weeks. But a big thank you to everyone that tuned in. Huge thank you to all the volunteers, the officials, the production group with Mixer Media, just bringing us all these great shots. But I hope everyone has a great rest of the weekend, and we will see you at a regatta soon.